Welcome on the news leg of the AM show. Now, in our first story, former President John Dramani Mahama has taken a swipe at the governing New Patriotic Party, saying the party is at its wits' end and cannot perform any miracle to change the fortunes of the people. He advised all those who still had the belief that their lives could be improved in the dying embers of their reign not to tickle themselves. Rafiq Salam was embedded in the former president's campaign and reports now from Drapa.
Flag bearer hopeful of the National Democratic Congress NDC, John Dramani Mahama final day campaign tour of the Upper West region took him to 5 constituencies, all held by the NDC, starting at the Jiriba constituency.
And when we come back into office, I have said that we will make sure that any opportunities that are available to Ghanaians, you also get your fair share. Because you are the owners of our party, you also get your fair share. 3
persons have filed their names to contest the Jiriba parliamentary primary, including Jennifer Namfuri, daughter of the former Inspector General of the Ghana Police Service and incumbent Kwetu Sedidafla, who is seeking a 3rd term.
This is your constituency. We are going to vote you 100%. I will also assure you that this constituency is one of the constituencies that is very united. The constituency executive committee are together. The branches are united. Stakeholders are together. And I want to assure you, after the primaries, we will come together and increase the votes margin for yourself and myself.
The next stop of former President John Dramani Mahama was at Nadoli, capital of the Nadolo-Keleo constituency, which was a Waterloo for him in the last presidential primary.
And I know that this is Honorable Bagben's hometown. And so when I came, I campaigned, and I knew I was going to win the overall. But for us Northerners, we respect our elder brothers, we respect seniority. And so I had to be careful here. If I defeated my elder brother in his own hometown, it will become a big problem. And so I put the foot on the accelerator gently. I didn't push it too hard. And truly, you guys honored our brother. He won and I came second. And we've been working together. Today we're all proud of him, that he's the right honorable Speaker of Ghana's Parliament, the first Northerner in the history of Ghana to become a Speaker of Parliament.
Anthony Mankara, who took over from Speaker Alban Babin, is being contested by a senior lecturer at the Simon Diedon Dombo University of Business and Integrated Development Studies, Dr. Tedios Banye.
There are no options. Yes. You are the only person in the race, and we are going to give you overwhelming endorsement. I can assure you I've been everywhere in the constituency, every branch, and the determination and resolution to vote for you 100% is great and clear.
The former president then headed east and to Issa, constituency capital of the famous Bure Issa. He interacted with the delegates and the 2 aspirants vying for the right to represent the party in the next general election. Their incumbent Dr. Sebastian Sandare, who is aiming for a parliamentary hat-trick, and Abu Kabiembata Kansangabata, better known as Abu Keke, pitching his strength against him for the 2nd time. At Bulengi, in the Wise constituency, the former president, interacting with the delegates, chiefs, opinion leaders of the area, admonished the people against politicians who come to them with flowery language in the name of getting power. Citing the MPP as an example, he stated that the party is at its wit's end and can perform any miracle to change the situation.
6.5 years. It's 1.5 years more. There's no miracle going to happen. What they've done is what they've done. They're not going to add anything to it. So anybody who is sitting and thinking there will be a miracle in this last 1.5 years is just tickling himself and dreaming. Nothing else is going to add. What you've got is what you've got. There's going to be nothing. And as far as I know, there's nothing here in Wa East that NPP came in the last 6.5 years and have done. What they've rather done is that good things we're doing, they have stopped them. I remember we're building a girls' secondary school here. And as soon as we left office, where we left it is where it is. And so I wish to promise you that NDC is coming for sure. And when we come, that girls' secondary school, we'll finish it and we'll make sure that the girls of this area can get a good education.
The Wa East constituency seat is considered a swing seat, but is currently being held by NDC's Dr. Godfrey Sedi Jasau. He's being contested by a former Wa East constituency secretary, Dr. Munor Isaac, and former Upper Sudan treasurer of the NDC, Prince Razak Tachi.
We in Wa East are beginning to rewrite our books to ensure that Wa East remains the seat for NDC from now. Because of that, during the constituency elections, we literally maintained our existing executives. In the same vein, we are going to maintain our presidential candidate and parliamentary candidate as well.
The NDC flag bearer hopeful wrap up the campaign at Lansah Tolu in the Wa West constituency before rolling out of the region to the Savannah region, where he is expected to cast his vote during the presidential and parliamentary primaries on Saturday. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam, Jiriba.
Well, the Wa Central NDC parliamentary primary, meanwhile, is expected to be keenly contested as two lawyers, international relations expert, and a pharmacist have filed for the contest. Incumbent Wa Central Member of Parliament, Dr. Rashid Pelpour, is in a battle of his life as he begins his bid for a 6th term in Parliament against old foe and former Food and Drugs Authority Chief Executive Officer Alhaji Hudu Mokhtari. Rafik Salam once more reports that the two lawyers, Abubakar Mutiu Rahman and Wahid Bampori Idrisu, are bent on springing a surprise.
Dr. Rashid Hassan Pelpour has constantly for over a decade continuously divided opinions in the Wa Central constituency for deliberately being shifting the goalpost as to when he will call it quits in Parliament.
But for me, I think I can also say hopefully it could be the last, but hopefully it could be a continuation. But let me tell you, this is not a small job at all, and I will do the bidding of the people, but I will also try to understand when it is time to exit. But I'm not disclosing anything here. Let's wait until we get to the Rubicon, and then we can cross it.
This interview was conducted immediately he was declared the victor in the 2020 parliamentary polls in the Wa Central constituency. Dr. Rashid Pelpour, arguably is loved and despised in equal measure, but has consecutively won every parliamentary primary of the National Democratic Congress (NDC) in the Wa Central constituency since 2004. His percentage or margin of victory over the years, however, has been on the decline, according to a group calling themselves Crusaders for Positive Change in the Wa Central constituency.
When Amy Seidu left the seat, the margin between NDC and MPP was over 18,000 votes. Currently, the difference in votes is merely a little over 5,000. Furthermore, the MP employs use and dump tactics before and after elections.
That claim, however, has been disputed by Progressive Youth Alliance, a group affiliated to the international relations aspect.
Honorable Amy Seidu had his best performance in 2000, which is 53%, and His Excellency Dr. Rashid Hassan Pelpour best performance in 2008, which is 58%. So by these figures, the best performance ever in Wa Central is 58%.
Dr. Rashid Pelpour, for a safe time, is running in the NDC Wa Central parliamentary primary and has tied his performance to that of the NDC.
NDC represents development in this constituency. All the many schools we have built were built by NDC. The secondary schools, the university, the hospitals, the clinics, the water systems, everything you can see in one central here, you know, is being germinated and propagated by NDC.
A poor enforcement of building codes, patronage of substandard building materials, and the influx of unqualified contractors have combined to identify as factors contributing to recent building collapses in the country. The Ghana chapter of the International Facility Management Association says institutions are failing to enforce standards. President of the association, Samson Opariajaman, wants quacks pushed out of the construction industry.
Within the past week, the country has recorded at least 5 building collapses. The latest is a church facility collapsing on construction workers in Kaswa Botiano. In such incidents, lives are lost, injuries sustained, while investments are wasted. President of the International Facility Management Association, Ghana chapter, Samson Opariajaman, attributes the spate of building collapses to substandard building materials on the market, unqualified personnel, non-supervision, and a changing climate. He is worried about poor supervision of constructions.
We have institutions who are not doing their work. Okay, in Ghana, anytime somebody wants to build, he goes for a building permit. Okay, now if you are given a building permit and you go to site to build, you are supposed to implement what the drawing states. Okay, now in implementing what the drawing states, there are also professionals from the assemblies who must be going around to monitor if the permit that has been given to you is implemented on site. But most of the time the permit is given, you know, through the back door, and when they go to site too, you don't have monitors going around to ensure that the right mixture of concrete is being used, the right sizes of, you know, reinforcement is being used, and the right process of building construction is being followed. Even today, standardization in our building material is a problem. It's a problem. You go to site, you are supposed to see 12 mm rod, and you are seeing 10.5 mm, you are seeing 11 mm. Where is the standard authority? Why are these things on our market?
Vice Dean of Faculty of Built Environment, KNUST, Professor Emmanuel Adinyira, believes empowering supervisory institutions would sanitize the building and construction industry.
We have a lot of quacks in the system. I mean, the problem with the construction industry in this country is the lack of proper control by the industry. Right? Elsewhere, you don't get up and say you are a contractor, you don't get up and say you are an electrical contractor, a carpenter, a steel fixer, and start to work. No. But we see that in this country. So there a lot of quacks are in the system. What I think has to help us weed out these quacks is some of it is happening, toughening the regulations and empowering the institutions to have more control, right? A bit of that is happening. I know there is currently discussions around the construction industry development bill, and once that is passed, it will give a body and authority to be able to sanitize the practice of construction.
Facility managers and the academic joined other global actors to mark the World FM Day in celebration and recognition of the facility managers and the entire facility management profession. Dr. Anthony Ejechum of the Department of Land Economy, KNUST, says facility managers must be included in an organization structure before constructions begin.
FM, for instance, are normally left out. They are the people who manage the facility for the entire lifespan of the facility. If somebody is going to manage a facility which may last for about 100 years or more, and he's not part of the design, he's not giving any advice, how is he going to manage it effectively?
Now, hypertension has been identified as the greatest risk factor for a stroke. More than 90% of stroke victims have high blood pressure. Fortunately, scientists in Ghana and Nigeria are using mobile phones to improve hypertension and other stroke risks. JoyNews medical correspondent Dr. Netta Pashram speaks with the lead scientist, Professor Fred Stephen Safo of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, for Tech Thursday.
Stroke clinically, it refers to a problem in the brain whereby blood is not able to get to one part of the brain, or the blood vessel carrying blood to the brain ruptures and therefore you bleed into the brain.
Well, yes, that is stroke. What then are the risk factors for stroke?
Number one on the list is hypertension. If you take 100 stroke patients, 90 to 95% of them would have hypertension. That shows that hypertension is the dominant risk factor for stroke in Ghana and elsewhere across Africa actually. Number two will be dyslipidemia, abnormal lipid or abnormal fat in the blood. So that constitutes about 70%. So if you take 100 stroke patients, 70 of them will have abnormal cholesterol or abnormal triglycerides in their blood. And that's followed next by diabetes. Up to about 30% of our stroke patients have diabetes. But importantly, up to another 30% have pre-diabetes. In other words, they don't have the diabetes, but they're on their way to developing diabetes. So if you aggregate the two together, you have about 60% with dysglycemias or abnormal blood glucose levels, predisposing them to stroke. Then we have lifestyle factors. If you consume less vegetables, you're at higher risk of stroke. If you consume more meat or regular consumption of meat, you're at higher risk of stroke. If you don't exercise, physical inactivity predisposes you to stroke.
The study involved 100 stroke-free patients with at least 2 risk factors for stroke. 50 of these patients were exposed to just one-time counseling. However, the other 50 were given a stroke video, which educated them on their risk factors for 2 months.
So one of the avenues for preventing stroke really is to harness the potential of phones, mobile phones, to be able to provide education and also to assess your risk. So recently we've been able to design a risk score that is tailored for Africans. So you put in your risk score on an app and it gives you the percentage of probability of developing a stroke.
In our final story now, the principal of the Kikam Technical Institute in the Elembele district of the Western region, Emmanuel Bright Norma, has stressed that the most critical need of the institution is furniture. He says the lack of furniture has greatly affected the academic performance of the students and wants government to urgently support the institution with furniture.
Kikam Technical Institute is one of the major technical institutions in the country, currently with a student population of 2,432. The school offers technical courses such as motor vehicle engineering, welding and fabrication, among others. The school is currently faced with many infrastructure challenges such as lack of a dining area, assembly hall and access road to the campus. The principal of the institute, Emmanuel Bright Norma, speaking at the launch of the 60th anniversary, said the school continues to contribute significantly to the development of the country, but access to basic needs such as furniture for students continues to impede teaching and learning.
Classroom furniture currently is the most critical need of the school. And we will use this opportunity to ask for help from the government and all other stakeholders that matters. I must emphasize that 60 years in the annals of any educational institutions like ours is no mean achievement, so there is every cause to celebrate. Nana Chairman, from an initial population of 3 teachers and 90 students in 1963, the institute has grown rapidly. It is believed that technical education stands the chance of helping to reduce the unemployment rate as it is in the country. This is so because with technical education, the youth can establish their own businesses and also work in formal industries.
Western Regional Minister Dr. Kobna Ochreda Comensa, addressing the gathering, assured the school of providing them with furniture to ease the challenge of furniture confronting the school.
Technical and vocational education and training is a vital engine to our country's industrialization agenda, and government is therefore committed to ensuring that its citizens have the practical skills necessary for success in life. Gone are the days when people thought that technical education was for second-grade students. In fact, today, as I speak to you, I want to tell you on record that every year in the last 4 years, technical schools have been oversubscribed. So I want to assure parents that technical education is key to national development, and our government, led by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, will continue to invest money in technical education.
In Afalia Kwanzaa, JoyNews, Western Region.
Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. And shortly we'll be joined by Joyce Lanyo, Country Director, International Child Development Program. She is our guest, but let me tell you a bit about those who support us to bring you this segment. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Now, they are offering free prostate screening if you're a man, free fertility screening if you're a woman, and all of us, many of us are walking around with so many things, especially, men. You never check your prostate. You never conduct a PSA. You never check so many other things. And before you realize it, you find yourself in a very tricky situation. So many women nowadays, you don't know about your fertility, checking for fibroids and all of that. Before you realize, boom, you're in a tricky spot. How about you make tracks to Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic? You can get these resolved. And here's where you can find them dotted across the country. Here in Accra, at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronum Abuehia, behind the Angel Educational Complex. In Takrady, Anaji Estate. In Tema, Community 22. In Techiman Hanswa, and Esiama and Zema. If you'd like to call them, and I proffer that you do, the numbers to call, 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But only the start of the news review segment. Madam Joyce Lanyo joins the conversation. A very good morning to you. Can you hear me, Joyce? I am wondering whether you've still not unmuted. You may have to unmute. Okay, so I think you may have unmuted, but there may be a technical glitch. So we'll try to work that out and then get back to you, please. Joyce Lanyo, of course, joining us for the news review. She is Country Director, International Child Development Program, and she is our guest. But there are so many things that have happened over the last few days between yesterday and today. Some of them I'll transcend or get into blunt thoughts for tomorrow, but I'll keep those cards to my chest for now. There's also talk about inflation, which has fallen 4 months in a row. And of course, that is good. But what is the reality of the impact this is having? The other day, I believe it was Monday, I hosted right here Bridget Jogbanuku, former flag bearer of the Progressive People's Party. And she had her take on the matter that, yes, we're being told that inflation was dropping, but no, the reality was on the market was no different. In any case, all of us have to strategize because your personal inflation will be very different from someone else's. It depends on the choices you make, the purchases you make, what products you're buying, are they imported, and all of that. That will translate into the cost you have to bear. So I guess all of us have to tighten our belts even further as far as the inflationary battle is concerned. Fuel prices are not down as much as I would want them to. Nowhere near that. I mean, they're still hovering around 13 cedis. That is still quite a bit to do. Today, I have to purchase fuel. Today, I have to do that. And it's always a pain having to go to the fuel pump. But it is what it is. Anyway, we'll get into the stack of papers we have here. And then when we can hear from Joyce Lanyo, we shall have her give her say on some of the matters we're going to be discussing. So we'll start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. 14 institutions fined 1.3 million Ghana cedis for non-compliance with RTI law. And there have been public institutions, ministries, among others, that we have reached out to, even from here, in RTI-related matters, who have had to be forced to basically give information. So if that is going to be the case, why do we even have the law? If it's going to be useless, toothless in respect of the information that is sought. So it's a good move. It's a good signal that is being sent. But we all know, Mr. Oponkroma, you know fully well that your work is cut out for you in this respect. At least you are not directly in charge, but in this regard. So let's ensure that that happens. Joyce Lanyo is back. Can you hear me now? Have you unmuted, Joyce?
Yes, please.
Great, I can hear you
my
now.
microphone is buzzing with the green light, so I believe.
All right. I can indeed hear you now. Good to have you. It's been a while. So a number of things have happened since we last spoke. Just over the period of a week, in the space of a week, 4 buildings have crumbled to the ground. Poor, whether it's building material or architecture or whatever, or engineering, these buildings have come crashing to the ground. The last one at this church facility in Old Botiano led to 7 of the construction workers getting injured, one of them severely injured, sent to the Kolibu Teaching Hospital. There's also this bit about inflation, which has fallen 4 months in a row. I don't know whether you have anything to say about those very quickly. So we start with the newspapers.
Thank you very much, and good morning to viewers. And it's been a while, Ben, but I thank you for the opportunity to make an input into today's news. Speaking about the collapsing of the building, it's really worrying. I mean, there are standards that engineers, architects will have to follow to give the support for buildings to come up. And I believe there are certain standards that we have to follow.
Right.
And then the quality of the materials that are being used in terms of the iron rods, the cement, and all that will also have to be have to meet the standards. But it's very worrying that the last, I think 7 days or so, a week, 4 buildings, including a government university, being collapsing in that manner. And I wonder what is happening, whether we have forgotten to go through those standards that you have to design for approval, or probably the cement that is being manufactured is of lower quality. It's really, really worrying. And I am not an engineer though, but I would like to plead with authorities who will have to approve buildings. I know, especially story buildings, you have to go through a lot of processes, the fire situation, the ground, they'll have to test the ground and see the soil, how it can accommodate the building, and any other structural strategies that will have to be put in place. But for buildings to be collapsing in this manner is very, very worrying. And I wonder whether all those owners of these buildings, including that of the UDS University, had really gone through the minimum standards, the structural agreements, and whatever it takes to put up a building, actually went through the process. Otherwise, we are heading towards doom. I remember some years back when the Melcom building collapsed and the hell we had to go through. Even experts had to travel from outside the country to come and support in clearing. We were witnesses of the Turkish buildings that collapsed. I'm not here to remind people of the pain, where our late brother, footballer Christian Achu, was part. It's really, really an issue, and I think government should take the matter up and investigate what led to the key institutions that can help the NADMO, the engineers, so that any building of that nature would have to go through the minimum standard to be certified to begin. And whatever it is that they are using, whether the cement, I learned we have cement for plastering, and then we have cement for concrete.
Yeah.
So people are mixing these two categories of cement, and probably that is affecting the building in such a way that at a point in time it becomes weakened and will have to collapse. It's worrying, it's scary, and I plead with government authorities, those who will have to approve buildings, to actually put their acts together and get things done before we head towards a disaster that will affect all of us. Thank God the casualties were injuries. I'm not sure whether there were deaths in these 4 buildings that collapsed. Even that, we have to be serious with everything we are doing when it comes to putting up a building, so that people will go through the process and get satisfied, get qualified engineers to actually come on board to support these buildings. Now, when it comes to the market and the inflationary matters, I mean, my sister, Bridget, has stated it all. We learned economics when we were in school, that few goods chasing money or some, the inflationary trend, the common trend that we used to say.
Right.
But brother, that the prices increase by minutes, or probably when the market women see your face and they notice that probably you have what it takes to pay more, they add a bit more. So
I hear there's something now, especially if you're a man. You know, we men, when we go to the market, sometimes the women try to get their way with us. They don't know some of us, we too, we have our own skills. But if you want to go to the market, one of the things you must do now is dress down. If you go dressed like I am this morning, they are going to hit you with prices that reflect for them, you know, your dressing. So that's one thing that I took stock of recently. Do go ahead.
Yes. I mean, it's true. It's really, really true. The market woman will look at you, size you, and determine the economic class within which you fall and quote the price. And these prices are non-negotiable. I was very good in negotiating prices, but now I'm not able. When they say it's done, and you just have to pay. And you know, you cannot, my in-law would say, you cannot chew the money. So you are compelled to buy. So prices does not reflect the inflationary trend we are being told. And I don't know the mechanism they can use to support in standardizing prices so that the common Ghanaian will feel some form of relief.
Are you calling for price regulation? Because we tried control price, you remember, sometime in the 80s or so. Look at how that turned out. Plus, our market economy is akin to what we see in some Western countries, where there is that free flow. You allow private enterprise to lead the charge. Government, the central bank, will have its own manipulation or regulation of the system. But basically, it is run by, you know, a free market. So isn't that a very slippery slope to go down when it comes to price regulation?
I remember price control those days, and truth to be told, that was around the military regime.
Yeah.
And so it was fraught with a lot of abuse, violence, and all that. I am not an economist, but if there could be a regulation, price regulation, that will be clear to citizenry, that citizenry will appreciate and understand. And I think the importation of goods is also contributing to this kind of price increases here and there.
Right.
If there could be a way of bringing this regulation, that will be appreciated by all and sundry within the market circles, the sales circles. I think it will be good for all of us. But the women are always complaining of the prices for transporting goods from the rural communities to the cities, and it's not an easy task. So it's worrying. In fact, we are suffering, and something should be done about prices. Talking about inflation, those are, in my mind or in my simple words, they are paperwork. It doesn't reflect in our pockets, so that we will feel the relief we are talking about.
Is based on a basket of items. They have specific places they go to every month. At the start of the month, they go there, they engage these people, know the prices, and it's a whole basket of items. So they have non-food, food, and all of that. And they put them together. There are those who have questioned it. There is this professor in the United States who has questioned our inflationary dynamic over time. But some would also tell you that there are different metrics that are used. And the Ghana Statistical Service does a broader assessment. So how does that wash off on you?
You know, sometimes when they churn out the figures, you are asking where they had the data from. And in my mind, as you know, a Ghanaian, as a citizen who is part of the economic activities in the system, if statistical services comes out with certain data that indicates that, look, the price regime and then the inflationary trend is this or that, it's entirely up to government to come out with a policy. If it is telling on the individuals, to find a strategy to mitigate some of these things that statistical service might be talking about,
right?
So that we will feel the comfort of whatever it is that we are talking about. But anytime, even now, the market women are looking at the inflationary trends. So when you go and then you are talking about price, they say, madam, they say dollar no cobium. The dollar is rising at a very fast pace, and then they take their price regimes from those simple and flawed analysis to quote prices. So government will have to be upbeat and find a way of mitigating or helping citizenry to be able to cope with the system. There's so much indiscriminate price regimes. You go here, cement is this, the next shop is that, either high or too high. You cannot buy, you are negotiating, and then you are compelled to buy the inferior quality that will lead to crisis in the near future. So there's a gamut of issues around these price regimes and the inflationary trend. And I believe the experts know how we can go about these challenges to regulate the price regime so that we will be comfortable to a large extent. Thank you.
On that note, let's get into the Daily Graphic newspaper now. And the headlines there, I started with this one earlier. 14 institutions fined 1.3 million Ghana cedis for non-compliance with RTI law. I know you'd have a brief take on that. Agric offers prospects for employment, prosperity. That's the Graphic MD lauding Ms. Agriculture Ghana initiative. Graphic Lands Ministry dialogue today, law enforcement tops agenda. President swears in Vaccine Institute Board inaugurates office. AG launches Public Defenders Division of Legal Aid. Add value to natural resources. And then that is a graphic initiative. And then EC stays off NDC elections. Now, I think we should start from the banner headline. Retaining the minerals value chain, ensuring stricter enforcement of laws to tackle illegal activities in the mining and forest sectors, as well as Eliminating barriers to effective land administration will take center stage as policymakers and stakeholders gather in Accra today for the maiden dialogue on natural resource management. As stakeholders converge on Kempinski Gold Coast Hotel for the dialogue that is being organized by Graphic Communications Group Limited in partnership with the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, the stakes are high as they expect an honest post-mortem of the country's natural resource conundrum and proffer solutions for the sustainable management of resources. The President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is the guest of honor for the dialogue. Let's now go to page 13 and look at the stories there as well. So 14 public institutions have been slapped with a total of 1,310,000 penalty for refusing to comply with the Right to Information Commission's orders to grant applicants access to information requested. The institutions form part of 26 review applications determined by the Commission since its operationalization in 2020. The Minister of Information, Kojo Nkrumah, who disclosed this when he took his turn at the Meet the Press series in Accra yesterday, cited limited cooperation from public institutions as one of the challenges affecting the implementation of the RTI law, which depicts the number of compliance exercises conducted by the Commission. The press briefing was to highlight the success stories, challenges, and the way forward for the RTI Commission while offering journalists the opportunity of asking questions. So 1.3 million from there. There's also this story. I just want to get all of them so we can pick them apart. The Electoral Commission will not supervise Saturday's presidential and parliamentary primaries of the National Democratic Congress until all legal issues associated with it are resolved. The chairperson of the EC, Jean Mensah, made known the decision of the Commission at a meeting with the NDC yesterday. And it said, quote, "In order that we are not cited for contempt, the Commission has taken the decision not to supervise the conduct of the presidential and parliamentary elections until after the determination of the case by the court," she said. I listened to Abraham Amalba, Director of Legal Affairs at the NDC, and he said, well, he understood why the EC would adopt or take this decision, of course, since they had been served themselves and in order not to be in contempt of court. But the issue is going to be looked into by the court come tomorrow, and depending on what the decision is, I guess the EC would either go ahead to conduct it on Saturday or not, based on the decision of the court. So we have here law enforcement, the Graphic Lands Ministry dialogue. Today, the president will be there, but crucial there are land and natural resources. And for me, I think we're gradually losing the plot. We are destroying our environment in crazy ways. There's also the other stories I've read, NDC elections in limbo, and the other one on page 13, RTI law and non-compliance. What is your take, Joyce?
Thank you very much, Ben. And my take, or what I would say concerning the RTI law, because I work within the civil society space, and information is very important to inform decision, to inform policy, and all that. But it has become very, very difficult for government officials to actually release information for these purposes that I just mentioned. Meanwhile, we have fought and advocated for this law to be passed. And the law being passed enjoins all public officials or government agencies to release information needed to inform certain decisions, to address certain positions, to do advocacy for the citizenry to appreciate what exactly. But still, our public officials find it very challenging to share information with us. And so the procedure, you send your letter and they'll ask you to go and come. You send emails, it bounces, but it doesn't go at all. You go again, maybe the third time, they will tell you, oh, the officer to sign the letter is not around, and back and forth. Back. African Education Watch had to send an organization, which I will not mention the name, to court for some of these things, and they were charged. So I believe if these institutions are made to pay for some of these lapses within the information sharing agenda,
Right.
they would sit there. And I think there should be an awareness creation. When policies are passed, laws are passed, there should be a level of sensitization, NCC, for the citizenry to appreciate that this is where we are. And if you refuse to share information, that's against the law.
Right.
Yeah. And the electoral processes, I just want to do a snap one on that. I mean, the universal adult suffrage enjoins citizenry, regardless of race, color, to vote. And if there are issues with the voting system, that same instrument enjoins us to raise the red flag for the issues to be addressed. It's unfortunate that it's a last-minute red flag which the EC has decided to withdraw, which puts the whole process into jeopardy. So we will be praying and hoping that the courts will support in addressing these issues as early as possible, so that our counterparts will go ahead and run their election, and so that we get the leaders that we need for the next big election that is ahead of us. Otherwise, PC is saying he's not participating, and I think I agree with them, because the red flag has been blown. A whistleblower has come up with something.
So let's look at, just for your reading, for those of you watching us, if you turn to page 28, there is a story there on education. In fact, it is titled, Tackling Infrastructure Deficits in Colleges of Education. The writer is an editor and a teacher himself, and it talks about the significant infrastructure deficits in almost all the colleges of education in Ghana. Pictured there, you would actually see, look at that at the bottom. That is the Bagabaga College of Education, a 400-bed capacity hostel, which has been abandoned in Bagabaga. So just think of it. That is the situation there. And if you look at it, remarkably though, government has spent a total of 432,680,456 Ghana cedis from 2017 to 2020 on payment of trainee teachers' allowance. Is it worth spending such huge amounts of money on allowances at the expense of other pertinent challenges faced by the colleges? That is a question the author, Larry Agbado, poses. That was just a quick one by the by. Let's get into the Daily Guide newspaper. Maybe if you have a comment on that, you can rope it into what I'll be taking from the Daily Guide. Nana Swezen Vaccine Institute Board. For me, I'm still unfazed by all of this, because I say until I see real action on the ground beyond the talk, that is what I want to see. Atuesian runs from jail, pays 4 million Ghana cedis. This entire Atuesian situation, I knew it would likely come to this, and the entire arrangement with the Attorney General and the allowance of this. But anyway, it is what it is. We've come to this point, and we'll see what happens. EC pulls out of NDC polls. We've already touched on that. NDC registers males as females for elections, and that is a story there in the Daily Guide. It's on page 3. Of course, there have been some issues with the process, and they are clarifying some of those. But trust the Daily Guide to bring up such issues. AFTA exports Ghanaian businesses to Kenya, and those are the stories in the Daily Guide newspaper. I'll just do the one on page 6 about this vaccine board. And President Akufo-Addo yesterday gave meaning to his commitment to establish a vaccine manufacturing plant in Ghana. This was when he inaugurated a 13-member governing board to oversee the activities and operations of the National Vaccine Institute, and proceeded to commission a brand new ultra-modern complex for the institute in Accra, with a charge to work hard to make Ghana the vaccine hub of the African continent. Well, like I said, commissioning, board, facility, the work is cut out for them. Let's see them do it. And let's see them make Ghana, in fact, the vaccine hub of the African continent. Then we'll have something to celebrate. Your quick thoughts.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I agree with you with the inauguration of the National Vaccine Board, and all the flamboyance and the pomp around it. We want to see it happen live, and then we can give our comments and jubilate about it. But for now, it's something that we are praying and hoping it comes to pass. Otherwise, there's been a lot of lunch and all those things, but we do not see the job in reality on the ground. So if you ask me, I share the same thoughts with you. Once it's on the ground, then yes, we will talk about and then jubilate about it.
Right.
And yeah.
Were you going to say something on the Bagabaga College of Education?
No,
I didn't know.
the only thing I will say is uncap the GET fund so that we will be able to get the resources to do what we have to do. It's unfortunate that these teachers who are being trained to come take over the classrooms and impact the skills that children will need to achieve whatever they want to achieve. These teachers themselves are crying wolf. So my only message, uncap the GET fund. We are still working in the background to present petitions again to government. So what I would say, if you uncap, there will be resources to take off educational infrastructure so that our teachers and our teacher trainees will feel comfortable.
Let's do these two stories and cap off the conversation. So business find a SNIT to enroll 750,000 self-employed for regular income during old age until death. And there's also the business analyst, Treasury bill rates to remain high despite ease in inflation. Let me start with the Business Finder newspaper. That story on page 2. So the Social Security and National Insurance Trust has launched an ambitious program to sign up 750,000 self-employed workers onto the scheme. This number will be made up of 500,000 newly enrolled and the reactivation of 250,000 dormant contributors. Now, we know we have a working population of 9.9 million according to the 2021 Population and Housing Census. Out of that, 6.7 million are self-employed, 600,000 are of the self-employed have some form of social security cover. And we know that 90% of the self-employed do not have any form of social security cover. And of course, that is a worry. But if you look at the other story in the Business Analyst, Treasury bill rates to remain high despite ease in inflation. Treasury bill yields are expected to remain higher despite an ease in inflation. This is due to a sizable need for funds amidst relatively tighter liquidity conditions influence pricing behavior. Interest rates have fallen by 15.11% since January 2023, the sharpest decline in sub-Saharan Africa in 2023. Quick reactions. We have a minute and then we have to go. Joyce?
Thank you, Ben. I think the SNIT enrolling the 750,000 self-employed people is long overdue. It's long overdue. Look, we've been paying tax since we started working till date. A chunk of Ghanaians, you mentioned that the 90% do not have, it's very, very, very alarming.
So 90% of those who are self-employed?
Yes. Those who are self-employed are not rolled onto the SNIT scheme. And we, the few of us, have paid so much to get the infrastructure, to get government agenda going, to all the services that we are enjoying, our tax are included. What about this percentage of people walking around?
Right.
And yet we go on pension, the little we get to invest, government takes over and it's not listening to us. This is long overdue, and I think SNIT should even widen the net to encapsulate all others to pay tax. Tax is run to make all developmental projects possible. Other countries pride whatever they have achieved on the tax system. So SNIT is long overdue, and we'll be grateful if you are able to even rope in more of the self-employed citizenry to be able to rake in some resources to support the development process in the country.
Well, of course, our pension system has been fraught with challenges, so that will aid them. And of course, yes, that would also contribute to our state's kitty. Any final comments? I noticed you were about to add something.
Well, I'm very excited that I'm back today and to actually contribute to the discussions on national discourse. I'm grateful for the opportunity, but I'm praying that the NDC court actions will clear the way for the elections to take place. Thank you very much.
We'll see how that pans out ahead of tomorrow. Well, tomorrow in court ahead of Saturday. Joyce Lanyo, thank you so much for joining us this morning. She is Country Director, International Child Development Program, and she joined us for a conversation. Of course, the segment right before we get into sports, brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening as well. Locate them in Accra Spentex opposite the Shell signboard. Kumasi Krono Mabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. Takrady Anaji State, Tema Community 22, the Stichiman Hanswa and Siama Nzama. You can reach them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. And more coming your way in sports. The LA Lakers losing to the Golden State Warriors. The Lakers still lead by 3-2. We'll see how the next round pans out. But sports up next.
Good morning. It's time for sports on the AM show. My name is Haruna Mubarak. Now, Ghana's boxing team, the Black Bombers, will be looking forward to reorganizing themselves for future tournaments following their inability of all 6 boxers to make it to the medal zone of the IBA championships in Uzbekistan. Now, Amadou Mohammed, the only boxer who made it to the quarterfinal, lost on the scoreboards of all judges. The team will now turn their attention towards the preparation for the Olympic qualifiers, which are expected to come off this September. Now, Jojo Efson is the communications director of the Ghana Boxing Federation, who are in charge of amateur boxing. He tells Joy Sports about plans for the immediate future.
Well, you look at the potential we carry as a country. We have the talents. You know boxing well. You understand the fact that all the boxers that we've exposed, they are always self-motivated and they want to make it. Samuel Techi, as we saw, went there as an unknown and made that impact. When he made that impact, he won the, how do you call it, the world, he won that bronze, breaking that, which is Africa's only medals. This time around, we have a person like Kwame, who we are confident and working on him. You saw Amadou. We are certain with the kind of, fight he won, if he could have been the Olympics, why not the numbers will be limited? Because at the Olympics, it started from the round of 32. But this time around, you saw where he started from. So with 2-3 fights, he could have been in the medal zone. In the same vein, Waidoma, experienced as he is. And then Alote, Teofil Alote. It's also, had the potential. And if you saw even how he managed to lose against the African champions, we are certainly confident and we are working on things and hoping and praying against hopes that the power that we come in and need the support so that we can prepare. The history we are intent to make is not for the Ghana Boxing Federation. It's not for me. You are a passionate boxing fan. You take the glory, but it's not for you as a person. It's for Ghana. Yeah, you see, we have experienced men around the team, like yourself. You come in to give the pep talks and all those things. Talking to them, they are disappointed in missing out on the prize money, but they are cool with the fact that they've been exposed to certain, rudiment of the game at that level. For the records, since 2009, that Bastiers, Emmanuel Planche, and all those, Issa, Samir, and all those guys went to. Since 2009, this is the first time that we are attending. And previously, we didn't win any medal. We didn't win any even fight. But this time around, we managed to win 4, fight through Waidoma, through Afrikote, and then Amadou Mohammed, who has won 2 bouts. So that's why at least they have that inspiration that they can improve on whatever they've achieved at the taxation Uzbekistan.
All right. Let's delve into football now. And Asante Kotoko Chief Executive Officer Nanaya Amponsa has revealed the decision to fire Seydou Zebo was made under pressure following the pressure from fans actually, but it was management who were really keen on keeping the head coach. Now Zebo replaced Prosper Nate Egum at the beginning of the season. However, the Burkinabe coach was sacked after a string of poor results. Amponsa said management was content with the performance of the Burkinabe coach, but there were concerns about potential fans' attack. That's the latest in the world of sports here on the AM show. My name is Haruna Mubarak.
Welcome back on the AM show. We get into our big stories now. The first one, well, government intends putting $500 million in the Ghana Financial Stability Fund. Now, the World Bank is committed to giving $250 million, which means government must cough up the remaining $750 million from external sources. We delve into this with Dr. Richmond Etuahene. He's a banking consultant. We also have joining the conversation Dr. Saad Idrisu, an economist with Louisiana Economic Development. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you. I see you, Dr. Idrisu.
Good morning, Ben.
I hope you've been well.
Yeah.
Let's look at the very basics of this entire arrangement. The plan by government, the resources that the World Bank is committing to this cause, among other matters. What is your basic understanding of the reason for this fund in the first place and the mopping up of resources to set it up?
Thank you so much, Ben. Before I dwell into the matter, I just need to take 1 minute of the time to just air this out. I mean, I'm very saddened, or some of us are very saddened, that at the time that Ghanaians are expecting the NDC to be in a better position to take up the challenges in 2025, it's like each time that we are supposed to be focusing on national issues, the NDC miraculously takes over the center stage of the news in a negative manner. I think it is very unfortunate. You know, we saw the case of the Haruna incidents, the Haruna saga, which was, you know, just blew up the whole nation, and what is happening with 2-4 now. I think it's very sad because Ghanaians expect the NDC to form the next government, and some of these stuff happening could actually make Ghanaians to lose confidence in the NDC. So it is high time that leadership actually sit back and reflect on all this happening. And believe me, Ben, no matter how much Ghanaians love the NDC, no matter how much we love the NDC, no one could love the NDC more than President Mahama or ex-President Mahama at this particular moment. So some of these things, some of us expect that he actually steps in. Even a phone call to Governor Dufour will even solve some of these issues. Believe me. I mean, some of this negative reportage is not good for the NDC. Thank you so much. And back to the issue, Ben, with regards to the Financial Stability Fund or the Ghana Financial Stability Fund, I would say it is a good initiative by the government, and I actually applaud the government, even with that idea, I must say, because thinking about 1.5 billion, setting it up to help the financial sector is a good thing to talk about. And the government is expecting that by July, it will be operational. So let me make that clear. I'm very excited, I'm very happy. But some of us as experts do have concerns with how government is going about it. Because if you go back to current happenings, due to the domestic debt restructuring, it has cost the financial institutions close to $1.4 billion. That is how much the financial institutions, including both domestic, local, and foreign banks, have lost due to the domestic restructuring. So even with regards to the 1.5 billion that government is taking, at least I would say that it will not even be enough to actually help repair the financial sector, but it is still a good plan in place. But the questions that I would like to actually raise so that the finance minister or the finance ministry in general to focus on these issues are such that, at least if you look at the Financial Stability Council that was to be established under the Bank of Ghana regulations, there isn't so much clarity on how the fund is going to operate. When I say clarity, you realize that the bank's losses are in different dimensions. For example, if you take the case of Ghana Commercial Bank, they have lost close to $50.5 million. If you take the case of Standard Chartered Bank, they have lost close to $25.2 million. If you take the case of Zenith Bank Ghana Limited, they have lost close to $127 million. EcoBank have lost almost $1.50 million. So what are the guidelines on assessing these funds by each of these banks that have suffered these losses? At least by now, the government should have made that clear. What would be the criteria in assessing the stability fund? The government should make that clear. Will these banks be charged interest? The government should make that clear. Because there is so much uncertainty or there's so much confusion that even the banks themselves don't seem to get it clear as to how the funds will be set up, how the funds will be assessed, will they be charged interest to assess these funds and all that. The government needs to actually make it clear so that the banking society and all the financial industry players will be able to know what is at stake at this particular point in time. Because if the government hasn't been able to pay you interest on your bonds, and all of a sudden is promising that you'll be able to get $1.5 billion to help you, definitely if you are an industry player, you will be concerned. Is the government lying to me, or the government is actually telling me something for me to believe in? So I believe that the government should come out and demonstrate to Ghanaians, demonstrate to the industry player, even if it means holding meetings with the leadership of the Ghana Banking Association to clarify some of these issues. Believe me, Ben, what I'm telling you is from what we are picking from the ground. But some of these financial experts or the industry players cannot vocalize it as some of us are able to do. So it's a major concern that government really needs to look at. Again, if you look at number 2, we had a situation whereby the Bank of Ghana has been consistently accused of printing money, about 42 billion Ghana cedis, to help the 2022 budget of government. And the Bank of Ghana has denied it. So now, with this 500 million that government is promising, where is the money coming from? Where are the funds coming from? Government should be able to come out and tell Ghanaians and tell donor partners, because if government is not able to make that clear, then donor partners themselves will not want to even support the fund. Because if you as a government, you claim that you have 500 million to support it as a commitment, but you are not disclosing the source of the funding. Are you taking the 500 million from the stability, what's the name? From Ghana Education Fund? Are you taking it from NHIS Fund? Where is that 500 million coming from? Through the central bank. So it will make policymakers believe that probably government is going back to print money through the central bank. And the consequences of inflation, the currency depression, will be a major concern again. So Bank of Ghana, through the government, must make this clear. Let us know where the 500 million commitment is going to come from. Thirdly, you realize that the whole proposal is going to be an additional debt. That 1.5 billion is not going to be grant. The development partners are not giving us the 1.5 million as free. The 250 million that is coming from the World Bank is a loan already to Ghana. So other development partners will be giving us loans in addition to the 3 billion that government is seeking. Some of us will be happy that government will make this clarity so that the public, Ghanaians, experts, people who really know what is at stake right now. Because the government speaks as if, the last time I had the finance minister, talking as if the $250 million that just came from the World Bank is like a free grant. That is not the case. If you look at international media, you look at expert requests and all that, it's part of loans that are being contracted. So in a nutshell, the government is not only looking for a $3 billion IMF loan. The government is probably looking for a $4.5 billion loan, in a nutshell, with the $1.5 billion helping or geared towards going into the financial stability fund. So that is what I already said. I'm throwing more questions to those at the finance ministry to actually help in digesting some of these issues. Because at the end of the day, government owes it a responsibility in terms of accountability to the people. Government owes it. And government also needs to actually communicate to the citizens, let them know what is at stake. Even development partners really need to know. That will make the government more trustworthy. That will make the government have the confidence that it needs to have, or for people to have the confidence that they want to have in the government. But at this particular point in time, Ben, let's be sure, even if you are a development partner, you wouldn't want to put in any funds towards the Ghana Stability, Financial Stability Fund, because the government itself, or the Ghanaian government itself, is not being truthful with how it's going to raise the 500 million from its coffers.
Get into that. You've taken the wind out of my sail, and that is the exact reason, the precise reason we're having this conversation. And we'll take those matters apart one after another. But let's look at this. So where will government raise $500 million from? If government had $500 million in its kitty, maybe our economic situation would not be in the doldrums as we find it now. I mean, it's not the solution, but things wouldn't have been, I mean, as bad, I think I should just use it, as it is now. Which would then suggest that we have to seek that as well externally from some other body. For you, what are the feasibilities, if you like, just to pluralize that, of securing this, mopping up those funds internally, and if not internally, you mentioned the GET Fund, among others. Already, we are defunding the GET Fund, so to speak, because allocations to that fund are not being given. It is impacting education. So if we're looking away from some of those and we're going to go external as well, what are the dynamics to take stock of? Even before we talk about the add-on from the IMF. Look at those two angles. Internally, how do we generate that? Externally, how do we get that?
Internally, that is why I already said, almost all the funds that could have helped government to generate it, like the GET Fund and all the other funds, are being depleted currently. So I don't want to come as hard as attacking the Bank of Ghana, but based on the past history, or based on the past, I don't want to say allegations or rumors that was being levied against the Bank of Ghana, then it makes some of us to actually get worried that the only option that Bank of Ghana or the government will be taking is to print more money. That is the only option that will be available to raise the $500 million.
And we've been given some warnings. We've been given some warnings about that.
Exactly. And already previously, the Bank of Ghana has consistently denied these allegations of printing more money. But if you look at all the dimensions, there is no other way internally the government to raise that 500 million. And as you rightly said, Ben, if the government had that 500 million in its account, probably we wouldn't be in this situation. And believe me, even the 250 million commitment that the World Bank has given, I don't want to say that probably it is not even no longer in the government account. Let's give the benefit of the doubt. But still, it begs to question. You understand? Externally, there was a latest report already on our international revenue. It's almost being depleted. So externally, government has no commitment or no financial strength externally to be able to raise that $500 million. So that is why I am throwing the challenge. I don't want to put words into the Ministry of Finance representative or Ken Oforiatta, who is in charge of the Ministry of Finance. But I, as a Ghanaian, I, as an expert, would like my fellow citizens to know the finance minister should come and tell us. The finance minister should boldly let development partners, not just only Ghanaian citizens, but development partners that it is calling on to support the Financial Stability Fund. The finance minister should let them know where Ghana will get the 500 million from. At least they will be interested too.
Let's look at it from this angle. How then does government pull that rabbit out of the hat, economically speaking? It becomes very tricky a situation, almost bordering on needing magic to pull that rabbit out of the hat. In other words, is there something government has to come clean on as far as its quota, its quotient that it will contribute to this purse is concerned?
Extremely, totally. The government really needs to come out. Because even if the government doesn't come out, at this point in time, there are two scenarios. Like I said, the government will have to print the 500 million, or then we are going to have a situation whereby the government claims that it has $1.5 million, $1.5 billion, but in actuality, the government will only have $1 billion for the fund.
So,
I get to the scenario.
So let's look at the breakdown again. The plan is to raise $1.5 billion, the equivalent of about 15 billion Ghana cedis. We know it could be more. Now, exactly. 1 billion will come from donors, the international community, and financial partners. The World Bank has already committed 250 million out of that, which means for the part that we say we want externally, we have a surplus of 750 million. How we shall get that, there is no clear roadmap about which institutions, which entities are going to help us get the 750 million that we seek. But looking at the purpose for this entire development, part of which, looking at it categorically, you would be talking about the banks that are going to be affected, those that have participated in the domestic debt exchange program. Let's look at the banks briefly. Most of them posted losses, practically all of them posted losses last year. They find themselves in dire straits. Of course, that is not to say that there is a complete meltdown in our banking system, but they've taken a hard hit. Some of them were even more vulnerable because they were dependent on bonds by government, and now those have proven problematic. What would you say is the state of the bonds? Does it warrant this fund in the first place?
Well, for the bonds that, resulted in all this cleanup, already some of us, we spoke against the domestic exchange program. And I even said it was going to lead to a banking crisis. People called me pessimist or whatever at that point in time. But fast forward, that is exactly what we are seeing now. We are heading into a banking crisis. Believe it or not, we are heading into a banking crisis.
We're heading into a banking crisis.
Of course, yes. Ghana Commercial Bank, since 1993, they haven't posted losses. Since 1993, you could go and check their record. And 2022, they are reporting a loss of 50 billion and above dollars, not even Ghana cedis. So that tells you that, Ben, let me say that we unfortunately, right, we have a situation whereby these industry players are not comfortably speaking out. We all know the sort of country we have, realistically. Politics has come to play so much role that if you speak out, you are either NDC or MPP. So a lot of the industry players that have been speaking are silent, but they are currently suffering this particular problem I'm talking of. You understand? If government is not able to help by July, right, gradually we'll get into a situation whereby some of the banks will start closing down branches. And we will give particular reasons for that. They may not end up collapsing entirely, but gradually it will hit them. Because a lot of them had their investment in these bonds. So let's say a bank had investment that they were supposed to be earning 19% interest. All of a sudden, with the restructuring, government is giving them around 8% thereabouts. So definitely they are taking huge losses. And believe me, even with the international reportage, what happened in Ghana is even affecting the Nigerian economy, because a lot of the Nigerian banks in Ghana are also taking losses, like the UBA, the Zenith Bank, and all that. So it's not only that Ghana caused the problem for Ghana itself, but our neighboring Nigeria also is suffering the domestic exchange program that Ghana did.
Let's look at, so looking at this breakdown, first of all, you say another banking crisis is looming. How long do you think it will take before this bites? Looking at the returns or the results that these banks have been posting, we know they have posted losses, but for each, or should we say, to each his own. Looking at the dynamics, how soon, if things are not dealt with, how soon could we see this? You mentioned that by July, if government is not able to do something to intervene in a way, we could be in dire straits. So how soon do you think this could happen?
I would say as soon as possible. Believe me, because if you speak with industry players,
you're saying we're in the midst of a crisis, that the crisis could happen at any time.
Of course, we are in the midst of crisis, but the government is suppressing the crisis. And then with every crisis, no matter how you suppress it, it will get to a point you cannot suppress it any longer. It's just the same way government was telling that we are not going to IMF, we are not going to IMF, we won't go to IMF, because government was trying to suppress the crisis. But it got to a point that the crisis can no longer be contained. So government had to finally go to IMF. That is the same thing happening within the banking crisis, the banking sector. If government is not able to get that 1.5 billion stability fund set up by the July deadline that is, not the deadline, but the July that is saying, we should expect that some of these banks will start collapsing. They will start laying their workers off because they wouldn't be able to keep paying the salaries of these workers without getting the investment that they did in those bonds. You understand? So the financial stability fund is a way of cushioning the banks. Okay, whatever losses that you had made, probably even if you cannot recover all of it back, but at least you can get some back. So for example, maybe GCB is losing about $50 billion, even if they can't get it back, but at least the government is able to come in through the fund and they could even access 40 billion, it will go back into working capital. So if there's nothing for them to rely on, what do you expect to happen? When, even in the economy, there is no money for depositors to put to the bank. Are you following the situation we're facing right now? Because people are not putting monies into the banks right now. Banks are calling customers to even come and deposit money. So it's basically telling you that there's nothing in their coffers to operate with. How will they keep up paying salaries? Then let's, as Ghanaians, look at it as a collective problem, and not just, oh, maybe the banks are this, the banks are that. It is not like that. If some of them come to speak out right now, politicians will descend on them. So they are quiet. But the industry is really taking a big hit right now. The banking industry or the banking sector in Ghana is taking a big hit right now.
You're telling me that, look, we need those 1.5 billion by July. If not, we'll start facing a banking crisis.
Definitely, we will. Give it by the end of the year, probably your friend will be laid off from the bank. My friends will be laid off from the bank.
So that is a crucial point you make. But just to confirm, did you say the Bank of Ghana had never posted losses since you were referring to the Bank of? Were you referring to the Ghana Commercial Bank? Because for a moment I think I heard you say the Bank of Ghana, and I was asking myself, wait, how can that? Okay, so what we now call GCB Bank, right?
GCB Bank, exactly.
And did you say $50 billion?
Yes, you could check Bloomberg. Yes, it's been reported. You could check Bloomberg. $50.5 million.
You meant $1 million, not billion.
Yes, $50.5 million.
Exactly. So I had to confirm that as well, because I thought I'd heard million, and I felt that was, if it were $1 billion, then even the package we're getting from the IMF would not suffice. So $50 million loss. How much of a dent is that going to do? Because we all know the GCB Bank, what role it plays in our monetary or fiscal system in the country, its ties to the central bank and everything. So if the GCB Bank is incurring losses of $50 million, and that in itself has support from the state, then what can we expect from the private, banks? We have those that are very well developed. They've been there for about a century and more. We know them. I don't want to mention names. But look at the other ones. You mentioned those from Nigeria. What does that mean for them? And even if we get the 1.5 billion, what would be the impact on these banks in the next year, 2 years, 5 years? What is your forecast?
The 1.5 billion, that is why, based on my forecast, I've already told you, it will not even be enough to sustain the banks. It wouldn't be enough. Believe me, and if you look at what Bloomberg reported, right, since 1993 to date, Ghana Commercial Bank hasn't suffered this loss. You could check Bloomberg, you understand. The Nigerian banks like Zenith Bank Ghana, they suffered more than $100 million. United Bank for Africa, they suffered more than $30 million. EcoBank Ghana Limited, they incurred about $149 million. The data speaks for itself. Ben, that is why I already told you that these industry players, they themselves don't want to come out and speak because of the polarization of our economy.
Quick one. You talk about the polarization, but even these figures that you're mentioning, and we've cited some of them, 100 million, Zenith Bank, EcoBank, 149 million. If you tally them, does that mean we're getting even over the threshold of 1.5 billion, which would mean then that some would, at some point, have to either merge again or fold up?
Exactly. So based on the data that came out, the losses are close to 1.4 billion. So
1.4 billion.
Yes, it's close to 1.4 billion. That is what the reports are saying based on the data that is out. But $1.4 billion is almost close to $1.5 billion. You understand? So you have the case whereby, let's say, some of these Nigerian banks, if they are not able to, continue operation, or they are not able to sustain without any government support, they may end up pulling out. But like I said, we don't expect that it will just all happen at once like that. At least gradually, they will take the hit, including the Ghanaian banks. And you cannot rule out mergers as well. Probably maybe some banks may merge, but that is also a different subject matter for another day. But currently, I as a citizen or I as a concerned Ghanaian will actually hope that the government is not playing with this 1.5 billion fund it is talking of. Like, it is not just another rhetoric that the government is putting in place. But in all honesty, I am hoping that the government is actually committed in getting those funds to help these banks. Because believe me, there will be a domino effect. There will be so much trickle-down effect coming into place if these banks are not able to be sustained. As of now, like I'm saying, banks are calling customers. You could do a random market survey. Banks are calling customers to come and deposit money because they don't have funds to operate with. That is the situation we are facing now. And the economy being so hard to, people don't even have those monies to even take to the banks to save.
Not to mention the fact that for those who are on facilities, the banks are being more ruthless because, they must keep their heads above water.
Above water. So with such an economy, only the government assistance could come in to keep these banks in operation. Again, I'll say that the government, that is what I already said, the government is, even with that initiative or that thinking to set up the fund, that is a good initiative. And I applaud the government. I wouldn't lie about that. You understand? But let's go beyond the rhetoric and put it into action. And then, like I said, if government comes out today and just announce that, okay, government is getting 500 million from this fund or that fund into the stabilization fund, development partners will definitely follow suit. But so far, since December all the way to now, have you noticed that it is only the World Bank that have made that 250 million commitment? No development partner has made any commitment.
What does it say about trust in our economic system? What does it say about that?
Because if the government doesn't show the action, how do you expect the partners to trust you enough to make commitment? You understand? I'll let leadership by example. Some of us believe that if the government comes out today and announces that, okay, government has pulled out 500 million from so and so fund into the Ghana Stabilization Fund, there's going to be hope. Development partners will begin to have some confidence in the government and they will follow suit with the remaining 750 million that we are having. But currently, it is like the government is trying to set a trap. Let's say, okay, you know what, I'm looking for 1,500 Ghana cedis. But I already have 500 in my account. So can you give me the remaining 1,000. Then they give you the remaining 1,000, and there's nothing in your account. So in actuality, you have 1,000, but you report in your books you have 1,500.
So this is like you feel this is economic baiting just to get the external bodies to assist us while we ourselves. But that's a dangerous game to play.
But currently, that is how it looks like, because there isn't no commitment from the government itself. Government is not showing that commitment of the 500 million. Up to now, it's just a commitment. No money is coming into the fund. May, June, July. We are talking of how many more months? 2 to 3 months. And government is still showing commitment without any actual action.
Let's take a look at how the fund will be managed when it is set up. The Bank of Ghana will be at the helm. It will use unique operational guidelines, which are still being developed by the council. I find that a bit problematic, but we're also told that regulators will assess the impact on a regular basis and quickly address evolving risks in order to safeguard financial stability as far as the banks are concerned. What sort of approach do you feel the Bank of Ghana should use in managing this fund once it is set up? And let's look at the other dynamic. Let's assume all these entities give us the 1 billion that we seek, and somehow we are not able to come up with the 500 million that we claim we're going to raise. How should we manage that situation?
So let's take the first scenario. If at the end of the day we only have 1 billion in our accounts, unless I would expect more clarity on how those funds will be dispersed to these affected banks. Because if one bank suffered more loss than the other banks, I think it is fair enough to distribute the funds based on their losses, at least based on ratio, based on whatever percentages. Again, when it comes to interest rate, at least the government should be fair enough to these banks, at least not to charge them interest that will be too exorbitant. Again, because I am very sure that the government is not going to let them access the funds for free. With the current economic situation that we are, government may want to charge them at this point in time. So at least anything between 1 to 1.5% wouldn't be bad, or even less than that, because you are already having these banks in this situation. Charging them another higher interest to access these funds wouldn't be to their benefit. So at least government should be more considerate if actually it's able to get the $1 billion so that these funds will get into proper usage by these banks.
Right. I want us to...
If we have a situation whereby the Bank of Ghana is again printing money, then it will not be good for the economy. For that one included, yeah.
So printing money shouldn't be an option in terms of raising the $500 million.
Yeah, printing money shouldn't be an option because already, what is the inflation rate for March? 45%, right?
It's now down to about 41.2%.
Yeah, February was around 52.8%. So if you print more money, you'll be causing inflation again. You'll be causing currency depreciation and all that. Again, even if, let's just say, Ben, even if the inflation rate is 30%, right? I'm just saying, even if it drops down to 30%, go back to 2016, December 2016, when we had an inflation rate of 15.4%. So the inflation rate that we are experiencing is still high. Government must sit up with some of its action.
Let's look at that point you just raised, printing money. If we did that, what would the impact be on our currency? And of course, it has a spillover on the economy. Professor Steve Hank, for example, has been talking about a currency board. In recent times, I've seen posts of his on the Ghanaian economy, even contesting our inflationary levels. But that's a separate conversation. If we go ahead to print money, as the government seems to suggest, we can raise $500 million. Realistically, when we look through the market, our external options are very limited. Internally, they are practically non-existent. So we may have to do that. If we did, what would be the impact on our currency? And what do you think about Steve Hank at his continuous calls for a currency board to be set up?
I don't think there will be any problem setting up a currency board to actually help with the depreciation of the currency. In all honesty, our currency since I could say since 2016 or the date, based on the depreciation, more than 50%. That is not helping at all. And the more these sort of money printing goes on behind the scenes, the more you expect your currency value to go down. But like again, I'm saying that the Bank of Ghana has denied all those allegations. So they are just stories, you know, until they confirm it, let's just take it as allegations. But everything boils down to the fact that there has been some printing of money behind the scenes. So I totally support any currency board that will be put in place, you know, to be able to regulate some of these things. Because the way the Ghanaian economy is set up, you go to, even Ben, if you get up and go to market right now, they'll tell you that the dollar is high. So because of that, prices will be high, no matter what. So whether we like it or not, the dollar has an effect on our economy. So if you're able to at least help with the stability of our currency, then we should be able to have at least consistency in prices, because it all contributes to how our markets are being regulated. So I will definitely support any currency board that is being put in place, either by this government or the next government. That is totally fine. It will help to be able to streamline some of these stuff that is happening.
Now let's look at the losses that the banks posted. Like you have already mentioned, the GCB Bank posting a loss of 593.4 million Ghana cedis, the equivalent of about $50.5 million in net losses. Then we have Standard Chartered Bank Limited, 297.8 million cedis. And then you have, banks operating in West Africa's second largest economy, taking a hit, which is our economy, taking a hit of about $1.4 billion. There are so many entities, including the Nigerian entities in Ghana, that have also got close to the point of capitulation on the back of the sums they have lost. If you put all of that into perspective, and then you look at the fact that we're trying to raise 1 billion or maybe even 1.5 billion from external sources. And I'm sure you understand why I say maybe even 1.5 billion, because we still do not know where the 500 million is coming from. So let's say we're seeking 3 billion from the IMF, an extra 1 billion or an extra 1.5 billion. That would bring us to about a maximum of $4.5 billion. Now, if we get the 500 million from the Bank of Ghana, no matter the denials, I've seen too much in this space to think anything is impossible. If we did that, it would have its effect on the economy. And interestingly, why we're even going to get this 1.5 billion is on the back of the DDEP, which itself has created the situation we're in. So I really don't, it's quite a conundrum, isn't it? I mean, is there any way we win in this situation? Because it appears, okay, so you had a problem. To resolve the problem, you had to go to the IMF. To secure funding from the IMF, you had to conduct this domestic debt exchange. You've not even completed the external leg of it with China and the rest. Now, on the back of that same DDEP, you're going to need an extra 1.5 billion. The solution comes with a whole lot more cost. How does Ghana win in all of this?
Yeah, so Ben, that is why I was recalling you back to even before the DDP happened, right? We came out, I was basically in the news speaking against it, telling government that this is going to have a dire impact on the economy. But I was called a pessimist and all kinds of names, or anti-government and all kinds of names. You see, if you are running an economy like a circle, it's like you going forward, you going backwards kind of scenario. Without any sense of direction, definitely this is what is going to happen. From day one, you realize what the government did with the e-levy. The e-levy collapsed businesses. I spoke against that. The government didn't listen. But at the end of the e-levy, people who had small-scale businesses ended up losing. So in the first place, that is a hit on the economy. You are trying to raise funds or you are trying to mobilize revenue, but you are already affecting businesses in your economy. How do you raise that revenue? It doesn't make economic sense. I spoke against that. The government went ahead and did that. Number two, you came back again with domestic debt exchange program. I and many other experts spoke against it. I'm like, if you do this, at the end of the day, you are going to cripple small-scale business. You are going to affect your banks. The government didn't listen and went ahead with it, right? The banks are taking the losses now. Then you are back again claiming that you support them with 1.5 billion. So that is why I said it's like we are running our situation in a circle, like a rat race, without any end to it.
Let me ask you if... Go ahead with the point you're about to make.
Like, to be honest, until the government really sets up and see what priorities as a country we need, believe me, we'll keep going in this race. And it's not only MPP. Let's just say whatever government comes in, if we don't get our priorities right, we'll keep going around in this sector. Go to IMF, take money, put in policies that will collapse the economy. You go to IMF, take money, come to pretend you are building it. By the time you see you are going back to IMF, this is our 18th IMF since 1966.
Do hold for me, Dr. Idrisu. Do hold for me. Let me bring in Richmond Etiahene. He is a banking consultant. He joins the conversation. Doc, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. Good morning to your cherished listeners.
Thank you so much for making the time to join us. We know this morning it's been a bit hectic for you. We're grateful that you've made the time. You've missed a chunk of the conversation, but I'm just going to try to encapsulate a lot of what we've discussed and throw them back at you. 1.5 billion, we claim we're going to be able to raise on our own $500 million for this stability fund. 1 billion is expected to be raised from our international, donors, the international community, financial partners, among others. Already, the World Bank has given us $250 million that we're going to put in our kitty. That leaves a gap of $750 million. How do we manage the situation? Some have suggested that we may have to print more money, fall again on the Bank of Ghana in a near suicidal economic situation, because that would also have spin-off effects on our economy. We won $3 billion from the IMF. On the back of that, we had to conduct the DDEP. The DDEP has led to another cost of $1.5 billion. I'm sure you get my drift. It appears this is becoming one problem layered by another problem, layered by another problem. What are the things we have to do? Look at the banks. They are posting never-before-seen losses. The Ghana GCB Bank has not posted losses since 1993. We're seeing them posting over $50 million in losses. How do you view all of this, and what should we be doing to avert another banking crisis?
Thank you very much. I think it's something that I have been writing on consistently since ever they thought about the DDE in December 6th. I put up a paper and I told them the implications of the DDE. I told them there was going to be a solvency crisis, liquidity crisis. But, Ben, from where you're sitting, you know that this country, when you want to speak the truth, you become the only Lone Ranger. And I have been going on and doing so many papers and using so many models to talk about these as the first stability fund. We are replicating what happened in Jamaica in 2010. It is a contingent measure that is supposed to address the negative impact of DDE. That was what it is all about. The negative impact is about solvency and liquidity. Unfortunately, this project or this fund, I believe, should have even started in earnest before the DDE was done, because the consequences is quite enormous. You're only talking about banks making banks in losses and what have you, impairments. That is not the story. The story doesn't end there. The story doesn't end there. We have another year to come, which this DDE would have effect. So now that we want to establish we wanted to establish this Financial Stability Fund, I believe we should have thought about the implications before even we started the project. For the banks, they may not have immediate rippling effect. But when you go to the security and fund managers and insurance that have signed on, currently they are facing liquidity challenges because people walk in and they need their money and there is nowhere to get your money from. Now we have borrowed and borrowed. Now we're going back to the World Bank amount you're talking about. It's commitment. It's not supposed to, it won't come in until September. We should get it clear. It is not a fund that is available. It is a commitment given to us that by September we're going to get $250 million. So now it beholds on us. Printing money should be completely out. It is one of the problems that we are facing currently with high inflation. And you know the story. After printing so much money, the inflation is sitting on our head. And now we are trying to use inflation targeting, whatever methodology to bring inflation. When we have created a problem, once you finance something that does not exist, you create inflation. And that is, so for me, where I'm coming from, I don't even want to hear about Bank of Ghana printing money. And I'm very glad that they themselves, the Bank of Ghana and the ministry and the World Bank, as well IMF, are saying it's zero financing. It is critical we need the money, but the last thing we should do is to print more money. The question is, how do we get the balance?
And that is exactly what I was about to ask you. You asked yourself, how do we get the 500 million?
I'm going to tell you something that we could have done and be able not to struggle with even with the 3 billion. I'm making a reference to a World Bank document that's in front of me. Consistently, even post-COVID, we received remittances, international remittance of 3.8 billion. After that, we marked to 4.5 billion. 2022, 4.7 billion. It is far more exceedingly above the money that we are even looking at. How have we treated these remittances? As a country, how have we treated this? Countries like even Bangladesh and the country that is suffering like us, Sri Lanka, has packaged remittances, international remittances, such that it impacts on the reserves of the economy. I'm sorry. What have we done? Number two, if we really want to go there, I think we have enough resources in this country to say that we can generate the mining companies. Let me give you a simple example. We can go and renegotiate with the mining companies and even some of the telecos. I don't want to mention their names. They are cash cow. We call it cash cow. They are foreign currency cash cow. We can go and sit down with them and tell them that if the contract was even 70-30, we would like you to do it, say 60-40 for us. Give us 10% of your money to enable us to shore up this funding. We can't do it. You see, we need to think through when the challenges come. It shouldn't be sacrosanct to few people who think they know all. Let us go back to the mining company. We have an existing contract with them. The contract maybe is 80-20. Let us ask them, ladies and gentlemen, we are in crisis. We want us to help us, to lend us some money, and we'll structure your repayment through your mining proceeds. I don't think they'll be too hard on us. They won't be too hard. Because if we go down, we go down with them. Especially the financial sector. Because they also have to use the financial sector in payment and settlement of what have you. So I think we can sit down, as other people have been saying. We need to think through, whenever there are challenges, we need to be very innovative. Innovative comes from so many angles. Bring these people together, let them think through, let us jaw and help the nation. Because this thing has been going on. When the DDE started, anybody who spoke not for the DDE, became an albatross. I can tell you, Ben, I can tell you, those of us who have been writing papers on it, we have so many names and so many callings. But you see, when
calls from whom?
Ben, when you speak the truth, you speak it to the last. And at least I have been vindicated. And Bloomberg this morning has confirmed the work that I did. That the losses are quite enormous. We should be very innovative. And I'm saying that. Let us go to the cash cows. There are cash cows in this country. I can tell you, you know the people I'm talking about. Let us sit down with them. Oh, brothers, we know we are in challenges. Can we give us up $500 million so that we structure your agreement in such a way that by the end of it, 2 years or 1 year, you get money back, so that we can push in the financial sector, which is the base of the economic recovery. If the financial sector go down, there's not going to be economic recovery.
And
that's
speaking,
that's my thinking, that it has come for a time to let us be innovative and explore other people's knowledge so that we can bring the country to a level where it will help us then.
You talk about if the financial sector goes down. Of course, if it goes down the sink, then we all sink with it because our financial system is constructed around it. But you look at the different dynamics, the losses that are being posted. Look at the GCB Bank, for example, since 1993, first time posting losses, and a gargantuan one at that, over $50 million. It spreads across even to the most established banks that we have in the country. I'll put this hard question to you. Is a banking sector crisis, another banking sector crisis, looming large, especially if we do not get the $1.5 billion that we are looking at? The approximation is that the losses posted by the banks sum up to about $1.4 billion. Now, if that be the case, especially if we do not get the $1.5 billion we're looking for, could we have a banking sector crisis, another one on our hands?
I think, Ben, you have answered your question. If the question is if we do not get it, then we are almost in crisis. I have to be blunt. And this is even a temporary measure. What about 2023, when the other losses are captured? So the earlier we guided our loins to be able to resolve this, the better for us. And I've given you one option. There are good mining companies in this country. Sit down with them. Tell them, we are in terrible mess. Can't you do something to structure $500 million for us to support the sector, which is the bane of our recovery? I don't think they will find it very difficult. But you see, you need to, Ben, you need to have innovative minds. People who think beyond the normal traditional thinking.
Dr. Etienne, are you suggesting, Doc, if you...
we're not going to go well. We're not going to achieve what we want to achieve.
Doc, are you suggesting that so far we've not been innovative in our approach after all the things we have been doing? And are you suggesting that for you, we should get in touch with these mining entities, big mining entities? I don't want to mention their names, but that is how we can raise these $500 million we need to back up the $1 billion from the international front?
Yes, Ben, what I'm saying is that even not even only the mining companies, I won't mention the telecoms. They are cash cows. Let me repeat, cash cows, especially some of the telecoms. $500 million, I don't think would crash them. We need to structure it in such a way that we'll get the inflows and we'll be able to reschedule our payments over a year or two to pay them. And if we do that and we're able to secure it, we'll be able to support the sector. But as the way we are going, we're always looking for donor. World Bank has given you $250. I don't know how much the Euro people are going to give you. And if you look at Britain, for instance, it's not in a very good state. I don't see how they can also support. You're always looking for somebody somewhere to come and help you. We need to be very innovative in developing our own strategy, like people call homegrown knowledge, so that we'll be able to solve it. If we come together and we use our connections, speaking to these people, these companies that we have had, I think we'll be able to we'll be able to solve the problem quite easily.
Gentlemen, to cap off the conversation, I'll put this one question to both of you, and I'll start with you, Dr. Etiahene, because of how your morning has been, and then we can cap off the conversation. Now, the DDEP, after all the pain we have faced, and with pensioner bondholders still picketing at the Ministry of Finance, after all the pain we have faced and still are facing as a people, it has only shaved off 1% in terms of our debt to GDP comparative. Now, as we consider this new fund, we're looking at an extra 1.5 billion. We still do not know where the 500 million will come from, but whatever way, it's likely going to be some form of loan, like you suggested, Dr. Etiahene, maybe from the banks, maybe from the mining companies, telcos, maybe from even oil companies. Add that to the 3 billion expected from the IMF, that's 4.5 billion. What do you think, how much of a dent is all of this going to make in our debt stock? You know, there have been projections by the IMF about our GDP situation and all of that and the dynamics, but 4.5 billion and what we've seen with the DDEP, what could be the impact on our debt stock? I'll start with you, Dr. Etiahene.
Thank you very much once again. I think the debt impact is going to be high. It's not going. You see, they have projected it to be 55 by 2028. But when you start on a baseline of over 100, it's not going to be easy for you to come to 2020, 55 in 2028. Because we are in a position that we have to borrow and borrow and borrow. And then we will now come back into the situation again. Then what I would have said, and I want to tell the people, is that originally we should have actually think through thoroughly and look at the options. There are other options, and the other options should have been thought through critically, evaluated, models used, stress testing done, to see which one would minimize. Because if you see the participation, the domestic debt is 193 billion, and you only score about, according to people, it's about 87 or 90. We still have over 100 billion unstructured, and the interests are going up. The interests are being paid at 19.3, and what have you. So we are in a crisis. We are in a crisis. But the question is that it is not something we cannot solve. Let us think together. Let us not make it as if the country is just for a certain group of people. It's a country that we all belong to. I have been here since the PAMSCA, the Economic Recovery 1, 2, since up, what have you. I've been through it, and I'm talking about that. If we come together, this problem, with the debt up, this problem, we can be able to bring it to a certain acceptable level in the years ahead.
Doc, we're grateful, immensely grateful for your time this morning. And we'll be tapping from your font of wisdom as time goes on. Dr. Richmond Etiahene is a banking consultant. He joined us for the conversation. We still have Dr. Saad Idrisu. You have the final take on that same matter.
Well, thank you, Ben. Like I said before, let's just pray and hope that the government will be able to raise the $1.5 billion to support the financial sector. If not, banking crisis is looming. Then again, the second thing is that if government is not able to, that is what I said, if, unless government should have plan B, let me put it that way, because we can't just rely on the Financial Stability Fund. If the donor partners don't put in the commitment, if government itself is not able to put in the $500 million commitment, unless there should be another plan how to be able to help the financial sector, even if it means, extending some capital requirement issues, or, just doing something. But we shouldn't just put all our hope on the Financial Stability Fund. That is all I will have to say.
Dr. Idrisu, we're grateful for your time. Dr. Saad Idrisu is economist, Louisiana Economic Development. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Well, still to come on the AM show, two crucial issues we're going to be looking at. One of them has to do with the latest inflationary figures. Now, year on year, inflation fell for the fourth month running to 41.2% in April 2023, from 45% in the third month of the year, March. Now, this extends the disinflationary process, so to speak, since January 2023. It's been 4 months running. But what exactly does this mean? We'll bring you those dynamics after the break.
A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for staying here on the AM show. I'm Bernice Lansah. Earlier, you saw my colleague Benjamin Akakpo engage on some experts having discussions on government's desire to create that stability fund. Well, it's now time for us to look at the latest inflation figures, and the year-on-year inflation fell for the fourth month running to 41.2% in April 2023 from 45% in March 2023, extending the disinflation process since January 2023. Now, according to the Ghana Statistical Service, both food inflation and non-food inflation dipped last month. Well, it's now time to speak to Foster Ajaho. He is head of price statistics at the Ghana Statistical Service. It's great to have you here. And I was just thinking to myself, Mr. Ajaho, in times past, we didn't put such priority on inflation, discussing it every month. But I mean, clearly, it appears the current economic situation has brought so much attention to our inflation figures, and everybody is almost always waiting to see what the Statistical Service will release. Now, let's start off on this note. What does this really mean? Is it safe now to say that we're on a downward trend? Does that mean that we should expect prices to reduce when we go to the market?
Thank you, and good morning to our cherished viewers. Let me say that, indeed, in the past, people were not paying so much attention to inflation figures. But of course, in the recent past that we had the heights, people were then feeling the heat in their pockets. And therefore, everybody has become awakened to the reality that I need to monitor inflation and know what is happening. And coming to the second question, indeed, I mean, we are comfortable to say that having had 4 months of continuous downward trend, we should be saying that indeed we are in the period where we've seen reduction in the rates. But however, other factors do influence inflation rates. I mean, other policy directives, taxes, the monetary policy, and the fuel availability and their prices, and then the weather, I mean, nature itself and farmers' input. And so if all these things work well, then of course we should be saying that indeed we are in the downward trajectory.
Interesting, and you brought up the issues of policy, because then that brings to perspective our current situation, the IMF deal, and whether we'll get it in time or not, and how all these influence the rate of inflation. But are you able to tell us because usually, especially when we are discussing the issue of inflation, we like to focus on the nitty-gritties, what exactly went into the basket and the calculation. Are you able to run us through?
Thank you. And so, yes, I mean, like you rightly said at the beginning, indeed, policy has a role. Speculation, now that we're talking about the IMF bailout and everybody's expecting when is it going to come? Will it come? What are the conditionality? And so when that speculation fits into the people, then they begin to become uncertain, and some want to cash in and increase their prices even when there are no factors that are pushing them. The computation generally is we collect prices from across all the 16 regions of Ghana. We have 57 markets that we do collect prices every month. And so for the first week of every month, we deploy people to go and pick prices on virtually every item that we buy. And then when we do all these, we come and aggregate them, and then we are able to tell the national figure which region is pushing inflation, what factors are pushing inflation, and the advice policy aside.
And exactly on the basket, what went into what were the various items you looked at? Because the last time we checked, even though inflation had slowed for many of the products, dairy products were still high. They stayed at the top. Are you able to run us through the components that went into this month's basket?
Okay, so we have a fixed basket. We don't vary it.
Okay.
Every month is the same number of items that we do collect. Or we have things like, virtually everything: groundnut, oil, bread, rice, ladies' panties, non-alcoholic beverages, name it, accommodation, cement, fuel, transport. everything that makes our day-to-day life comfortable, we consider them in the basket. And indeed, we've said that yes, there are some that for the past month or so, we've been seeing them feature so well. So for this month, for example, we saw granules, the shell granules, we saw palm oil, washing soap, coconut oil, granule paste, sunflower, and fish being the topmost items that recorded inflation that need to be looked at.
And for imported products, what was the detailed information you gathered on that? Because we understand that there is a slowing down in the prices of imported products.
So the good news we have observed, between last month and this month is that, yes, even though prices generally are going up, but we're seeing a slow in the way they are going up, especially with imported items. And so if you look at our top 20 items, we only have washing soap, sanitary pads, and women underwear, maybe tea. These are the items that are imported, that's featured so much in this month's inflation. Otherwise, almost all the items that were pushing inflation for the month of April are domestically produced items.
So this particular one, what exactly is causing the slowdown? Is it that there's a reduction in the demand of the products? What exactly is causing the reductions that we are seeing?
So if you watch carefully last month's release, indeed, we did record some items that recorded actual reduction in prices. And so the amount and the year-on-year were negative, which means that those prices have started coming down. Then again, there are some, even though their prices have not come down, but the rate at which they used to go up in the recent past have slowed. So maybe some months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, probably let's say a 5 kg bag of rice, if every month it was going up by let's say 10%, now it's either stagnant in terms of price, so it can go today 20 cedis. We are seeing the stability in inflation, the reduction when we compare it year on year.
Hello, Mr. Ajaho, are you there?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
here. Can you hear me?
Sorry, it froze a bit, so I was wondering if it was another instance of a frozen feed or you had actually ended your submission. So it's not necessarily because there is not as much demand, and so that the market influencers are dipping the prices so that people can afford them, because sometimes it happens when things become too expensive and people do not want it as much as they did. The marketers would want the products to go, and so they just beat down the price. I just want to understand exactly what is influencing the reductions that we've been recording.
Right. You're absolutely right. Except to say that I think what is helping us this time around is that factors that were pushing the prices up in the past are becoming better. So, for example, we are all aware that at the latter part of last year, we saw the exchange rate not doing so well. I mean, for some time now, it has been stable. We saw fuel prices being, almost every 2 hours being increased. In recent past, we are even seeing a decline in the fuel price, and that translates in transport fares and other things. So this good news, and then again, availability of the products, like maybe the farm yields, are the ones that are contributing to the stability and even the decline in the inflation rate that we are recording.
My first question to you was whether we could, based on what we've recorded so far, make a certain projection about prices reducing on the market. But then again, there's the issue of the new taxes that were introduced and concerns that could lead to an increase in the prices on the market. I don't know if that is part of your job. Are you able to make predictive or assumptive figures or expectations? Are you able, as a statistical service, to say that, okay, based on this, we could see an increase in the prices of goods, even though the factors that you mentioned, the exchange rates, the cost of fuel, and all that? Are you on edge about the taxes and whether or not we really would see a reversal in the trend? Hello, Mr. Ajaho.
Yes, so sorry.
Right.
Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes, I can.
Yes, we try to shy away we try to share away for forecast and prediction, because otherwise, but to say that indeed it is true, when taxes are increased, if producers don't become philanthropists, then they tend to pass it on to. But we are only hoping and praying that the kind of taxes that we're going to have, maybe producers will absorb them, I mean, in the short run, so that they may not affect the immediate prices.
Right. Now, like I said earlier,
we are recording, the conversation can still be on the downward trajectory.
Sorry, Mr. Ajaho, we lost a chunk of what you just said. Can you repeat yourself, please?
Okay, so I was just trying to explain that indeed taxes do affect prices. And we know that producers are not philanthropists.
Right.
So when they are hit with taxes, the tendency is that they will push it on to the consumer. And so if they do that, then chances are that prices may go up, and when prices are going up, inflation is going up. We are only hoping and praying that probably this time around, in the short run, producers may absorb the taxes temporarily, so we can continue having a breathing space for inflation to go down before probably we roll it over to us, the consumers.
Beyond the general populace, knowing about inflation and understanding what it is, what are some of the, why is it even important for you to do it every month?
So, my dear, you realize that, as you and I are doing it, it guides us first, the consumers, to know how things are going accordingly. But importantly, for the state, for the government, for the central bank, inflation plays a key role in the decision on the monetary policy rate. Right. It also helps the commercial bank in fixing interest rates. We know even our bailout, the current bailout discussion with IMF, inflation is playing a key role. And so government takes clear interest in inflation and makes sure he's able to bring it under control. And that's how come every month we are obliged to produce it both for the populace, the government, the central bank, and our external partners.
I appreciate your time here this morning. Foster Ajaho is head of price statistics at Ghana Statistical Service, and we've been talking about the latest figures, which suggest a downward trend. And I know that many of you are excited about it. The fact that this may reflect in the prices of goods on the market. So we've got our fingers crossed. Hopefully, the other factors that Mr. Ajaho referred to, government policy, taxes, and etc., will not reverse this trend. Well, we'll take a quick breather, just go and sip on some water. When I come back, I'll be talking to you about 4 years of zipline operations in Ghana. We'll be assessing their impact and interventions in the country. Do stay.
Oh, you're wondering, huh? Well, from their Robin boxes for packaging to their 148 life-saving commodities that they supply to posts across the country, well, that is what Zipline has been doing in Ghana. I had the opportunity of visiting their smallest facility in the Eastern region, actually nationally, but it's situated in the Eastern region in Omenako. Well, this morning, we have the pleasure of hosting Samuel Ekufu, Country Operations Lead, Zipline Ghana. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you on the show.
Good to be here.
You know, until I went to the facility sometime late last month, I had read a bit about Zipline. I had some fond memories in terms of what you did in the health value chain. But then I went to the facility and my mind was blown.
Yeah.
Everything that the cutting edge technology
Yes.
was what really got me. But tell us, you've been in operation for 4 years. You started in Rwanda, you came to Ghana, now you have posts in the Ivory Coast, Kenya as well, Nigeria too.
Yeah.
Tell us about the 4 years you've been in Ghana.
Yeah.
What has it been like so far?
So it's been 4 amazing years since we started in 2019 April. So we're just 4 years now. We started with our first distribution center at Omenako, where I remember on the first day we did just like 2 deliveries. And in the first month, we did about 50 deliveries in the first month. And we are in that area, we were serving the Eastern region, as well as other facilities in the Afram Plains and other areas that are very hard to reach. But in the last 4 years, we've been able to successfully scale our operations from just 1 distribution center to 6, which is covering different portions of the country.
Where are they located? We know of the one in Omenako.
Yes, so there's a second one at around Ashanti Mampong in a town called Impenya.
Okay.
There's a third one around the Wale Wale area in a small town called Vopsi. Okay. And then there's one in Seshuyoso in the Western North region. There's one in Enum, which is close to the Volta side. And then there's one in Oti region to cover the Oti portion. So we have 6 now, and in a week we are doing an average of about 4,000 deliveries across all these distribution centers. And in the last 4 years since we started operations, we've done over 360,000 deliveries.
360,000?
Yes, 360,000. And counting, because even as we are speaking now, I'm sure there are
deliveries are being
made. In the air, yeah. And we've been working in collaboration with the Ministry of Health and the Ghana Health Service to serve the people of Ghana. We are currently covering about 2,500 health facilities. And these are hospitals, health centers, CHIPS compounds. And it's been amazing. We've been able to support the system. Our place here is mainly to support the supply chain. And we've delivered all kinds of things, ranging from blood. I can say we've delivered about 12,000 units of blood since we started operations. We delivered, even with COVID, during the COVID era, we supported the Ministry of Health and the Ghana Health Service in delivering a lot of COVID vaccines to help us be able to achieve herd immunity. We've delivered about 2.1 million doses of those COVID vaccines. And then when it comes to the routine vaccines for children, immunization vaccines as well, we've done about 9 million doses.
Yeah, I know. Last time we came from rubella to all the other childhood diseases.
Yes, we've done about 9 million of those. And then when it comes to medical products as well, we've done about 1.5 million units of medical products. So we've done quite a lot in the last 4 years. We've also had very good impact, especially when it comes to vaccinations and emergency situations where people need blood urgently. There are lots of impact stories that we can share. We, along the line, also did what you call like an impact study, collaboration with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation with the Ministry of Health and Ghana Health Service, where it came out that facilities that are served, that Zipline serves, right, have a 60% chance of having a shorter period of not having stock out periods, 60% shorter, because Zipline would be able to support those facilities. And a patient who goes to a facility that's served by Zipline is about 40% less likely to not get their shot. Because if they are located in a hard-to-reach area where ground logistics is unable to go to, or in an island somewhere, or in a mountainous area, that would not prevent them from having the dose, because Zipline would work with the Ghana Health Service and the Ministry of Health to make sure that we can fly to those locations and deliver to those hard-to-reach communities.
So from my visit there, and it's quite a system you have, rigorous system.
Yes.
I hear when the president came there, because that was the first outpost, the same processes we went through, he had to go through the sanitizing, the donning of all those materials. So quite a very high technology outfit. 65 to 70% of health posts are reached by Zipline across the country.
65%. Our coverage in the country is about 65%.
65%.
Yeah. There's still parts of the country that we don't reach yet, but we are hoping that in the next few years we can have distribution centers that cover those areas. So
we'll talk about what futuristically you're going to do so that you can maybe at a point have full coverage of the country. I'm sure that is the projection. But it appears within a short space of time, you have achieved so much. Like I said, I came to your facility and I was astounded by the technology, cutting edge technology. Your drones cost in the millions of dollars. I was surprised. The fiber covering and everything and how efficient they are. But how have you arrived at this success? What did it take to get here?
I think one of our main values is continuous improvement. So we don't sit on our laurels and just assume that we are the leading company in terms of aerial logistics in the world, which we are. But we try as much as possible to make sure that we are continuously improving. The main part of our success has been the people we hire, right? And I'm sure you saw only Ghanaians on the premises. This is a fully run operations by a Ghanaian team. I'm a Ghanaian. Our general manager is Ghanaian. And
I even saw national service personnel and all of that.
Yes.
And you have a training post where people who come in are given rigorous training.
Yes, and so we have the talent in Ghana. So we try to recruit really well, because we believe that if you hire the right people, they will always be able to come up with ideas. A lot of the things that helped us improve, be able to scale, were ideas that came from the teams that we had. Because what we are doing is basically something that doesn't really exist in the world, because it's a novel technology, right? And so it requires that you are continuously thinking about the problems and how to solve it and how to integrate. Most of the time, people see the drone and be like, oh, this is a drone company. But if you look at it critically, we are also like we are a logistics company. And to be able to succeed in healthcare space, you have to integrate your services into the healthcare terrain. And the integration bit is what we've been doing for the last 4 years, working with the Ghana Health Service, letting people understand how the service works, how we can fit into the supply chain. So there's been a lot of legwork to be able to get us to be an integral part of the healthcare supply chain within the areas that we serve. And I think there's been a lot of collaboration from the government and the Ghana Health Service in that regard.
And so in terms of, if you had to salute or look at those who have contributed to your success, what would you say?
Oh, the Ghana Health Service has been really instrumental. And all its other agencies, the Ministry of Health, expanded program on immunization, the National Blood Service, they've all been very instrumental in our success, because we operate in a way where we don't try to distort the system that you have. We try to work with it and integrate, right? And so we always have there's a feedback loop where we propose something, they propose something, we work together to make sure it works, because the patient is at the center of what we are doing, right? And so it's been amazing working with them.
Tell us about the cycle of your system. Not everyone has had the opportunity to go to a facility, an outpost like yours. I'm sure not anybody can just walk in. It's not possible. But I have been there, and the technology, right from the entry point to the facilities, to the equipment you have, to the drones and how they are caught, the precision. Walk us through what it is like, right from your storage facility where you store medicine, blood, plasma. What is it like? Tell us about your operation.
So the whole process starts with us identifying where the health facilities are located within an 80-kilometer radius, because that's how far the drone can go. Nowadays, it can even go 90 kilometers. So that's 90 kilometers in and 90 kilometers back. So we try to let the health facilities help us know where they would want the package to be dropped, right? So they just identify that location. We take the GPS coordinates of all those locations, and then we feed that into our system. And then we build a route from the distribution center all the way to the location where we drop the package for every single health facility. And then we also go ahead to share the routes with our regulators, which is the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, for approval. And then if there are any issues, we handle that. And then once that is done, we onboard the health facilities, give them training, help them understand what to expect when a drone comes to your location. I'm assuming that if this is the first time a drone is coming to your location, it's like, what is this? So we onboard them. And then we work with the suppliers, which is National Blood Service, the regional medical stores, to get the stocks into our distribution center, to the warehouse where you saw the products. So that's where that's the operations we call the fulfillment operations, which is where we fulfill the orders. So an order comes from a health facility. So it's not a case where any random person can call us to place an order. No, it has to come from a health facility that's recognized and with a designated person. They call, we verify the order, and then we process it. And then it goes into the flight operations area, where we have the teams that manage the drones and the launch of the drones and everything. So they now put the package into the belly of the drone, then they launched it to the location. These drones are unmanned, so there's no one controlling it. Yeah. It goes to the location on its own, and then it delivers the package, and then it comes back to the distribution center, it's recovered. So we do that a number of times in the day. So that's the process. So once it's delivered, we now share reports and all the other things, that's data with our stakeholders, letting them know the deliveries that we've done and all that. So that's the end-to-end, how it looks generally.
And I would just say this for those who are watching us. The system is so precise that if, for example, for a chips compound or some facility, it is supposed to be dropped at this point, which is point X. 100 out of 100 times it will drop at point X, unless some extenuating circumstances like a force of nature or something happens and the drone is impacted. Yeah. That is quite some precision. But when I came to the facility, I noted that mapping was ongoing. We went to this other room, the last end, for other posts that are coming up, so that these same procedures will be followed. But the health posts, I don't know whether you have interactions with some of them from time to time. What have their reactions been? Beyond what you told me about what it means to rural communities, what have the reactions of the health posts been to your work?
So based on the study that we did as well, 9 out of 10 health workers are amazed with our service, and they are very confident that we are delivering value for them. A lot of them are very excited, especially those who are in the very hard to reach areas. I've been to Afram Plains where in engaging some of the health workers, they told me that sometimes it takes 12 trips on the lake, right, in a month to be able to get vaccines from one point to the other, right? So if all of a sudden they have to just place a phone call or send an SMS or send a WhatsApp message and get the delivery done right at their doorstep, it saves them a lot of time, it saves them the risk on the water, it gives them a lot more time to be able to take care of the patients that they are working with. So from the side of the health facilities and the health workers, they really love what we've been doing. We also take a lot of feedback from them to improve our system, because there are also things, even though we provide a very precise kind of service where the delivery has that high level of precision, we are not perfect yet, right? There are still a few issues here and there that the customers would always let us know. We take the feedback and then we build it into our process and then we improve. So for those who were with us right from the beginning in 2019, they will tell you a lot has changed. Even from the way we do our things, we've gotten better over time.
More efficient, more effective.
Even way more efficient, right? And so that's generally the culture that we have. We take feedback from them, we improve. So it's been good with them so far.
Zipline is here to stay.
Yes.
Obviously. Yeah. But after all the successes you have chalked and in your supply of medicine, what are you looking at beyond medicine delivery? Are there other prospects for Zipline? And then you can also tell us about other areas you're targeting. Like we said, you would want 100% coverage. What other outposts are you looking at?
So if all goes well, in the next few years, we should be able to have coverage in a few more other locations. We currently don't have coverage in the Upper West side, as well as the Bronga-Hafo area.
You have only one outpost there, right?
We have
in that area.
That one is in the Upper East. So on the western side, we don't have anything there. So hopefully, if all goes well, we would be looking to have some on that in those locations as well. That will give us a lot more coverage to be able to serve a lot more people. I don't know if you saw in the media, but recently we launched a new platform of our drone, which is more focused on urban deliveries, which is, it seems very futuristic, but eventually in a few years you should be able to have a delivery done to your home. If you have a mother who is bedridden or is unable to move to go to the hospital for her cancer medication or for some medication, she can have it delivered at her home. Yes. So in the next few years, we should expect seeing some of these things. We are also in discussions to. We're already delivering human vaccines, right? But there's a lot of value in doing other kinds of vaccines like animal vaccines. Our colleagues in Rwanda are doing a lot with animal health.
So I heard.
Because the system can still deliver to farms, and so that the same logistics problem that exists in healthcare also exists in the agro space, where hard to reach locations, not getting the cold chain products to them on time and all of that. So we're also exploring opportunities in the agro space as well. So those are some of the things that Ghanaians should look out for. But we are still fully committed to doing and even better with what we are doing in the healthcare space, based on the collaboration we have with the Ministry of Health and the Ghana Health Service. Yeah.
All right. So to cap off the conversation, while I take your final words, what are the collaborations you're looking forward to? If any citizen, for example, is curious about what you do and how maybe they can contribute, so to speak, to make the system better, what are the avenues available and what next for Zipline?
So already we have a team we call the community team that is integrated into our operations in a way that they face off with the communities that we serve. And so we do a lot of activities in the communities with corporate organizations, partnerships and all that. And so we are very much open to any organization that just wants to know about our service. Even you mentioned that it's not anybody who can go there, but you can always let us know that you want to see it.
I mean, the right permissions have.
Yeah, exactly. But it's basically open. We open it up for students as well to come and see what technology can do, and also be able to dream and know that. I mean, if you are in your class taking your engineering sessions and all that, that is what technology can do. So we open it up for students to come and see what we are doing as well. We organize blood drives with the National Blood Service to be able to get a lot of blood units. That was some other collaboration or partnership that we do there as well. So we are very much open to engage all other stakeholders who have an interest in what we do. Our doors are always open. Yeah, you can always reach out to us.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Akufu, for joining us this morning.
You're welcome.
And with all the good work you're doing, we can only hope and pray that you continue doing that and continue impacting lives. Thank you so much for coming. From here, we're going to be talking about a pretty sad situation. 8 children in Fana actually drowned, and we're going to be getting into the dynamics of that. Carlos Calone is with us here at JoyNews, and he joins us with the details. If you can hear me, Carlos, what is the latest development? What do you gather from that community?
All right, thank you so much. We are here in the Fana community, which is within the Gan South municipality of the Greater Accra region. As you rightly said, 8 young kids actually drowned yesterday when they were returning from school back into the community. And we are told that there were about 12 people on board, including the boat owner. And out of that number, 8 have been confirmed dead, and their bodies have been conveyed to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital morgue by the police. And 3 are alive, a boy and a girl. They are alive, and 1 is still missing. So that brings the number to 12 people who were actually on board the canoe at the time of the incident. In fact, in the community here, the mood is a solemn one where you find a lot of people gathered in groups and actually discussing this very disastrous situation that met them yesterday. And so that is the update in the community. I'm told that the boat's owner has been sent to the police to make a formal statement to what actually happened, whilst the parents of the victims have also been asked to come over to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital to identify the bodies for further investigation to be launched into the matter. And so in a community, you find groups of people gathered and they have been discussing the issue. But fortunately, I have the assemblyman for the area who I'm going to engage shortly to find out some fine details of what exactly happened yesterday. So kindly give us your name.
My name is Dambright Abayate.
Okay, so tell us something about this community in terms of the population.
Oh, I heard you say 300, but we have a voter population over 800 over here, and so there are a lot of people in the enclave. They are all over scattered. Just that somewhere around after school period yesterday, we heard that our children were returning from school, and unfortunately, the boat they were using capsized, and then we've lost lives. In fact, there were 12 confirmed to me this morning in the boat, and then we had 9 lost, 3 survived. And then as we speak, one of the survivors were with the police, one is at the hospital, and one is here with me over there. Now, one of the children is still missing in the water, and brothers are doing all they could to have her retrieved, and that's what we are praying for. Her name is Victoria.
All right, thank you so much for the update. But we want to understand the age range of the kids who actually lost their life.
Between 1 and 13. 1 and 13. Age 1 to 13.
So those are the people age 1 to 13. Yes. And then the 2 that survived are...
The 2 that survived, what's her name? She is 13 years. And the other one I learned is 5. And the other, I cannot remember the age proper. Yeah, I think 9.
Okay, so share with us, why do these kids have to cross that dangerous path to attend school in another community?
I think first of all, you can see that the community has no school over here. We don't have school here. And that's how come they are making it at the other side or Chokombe. That's where they go to school. In fact, both ways they have to cross river to the school. And so it is just unfortunate that this time around this had to happen. All things being equal, I believe we could have done better, and the boats should have been big enough to accommodate the numbers that were in it. And then the person manning the boat too should be grown enough. You could realize that because there was no elderly person around, that's why the 13-year-old guy took the responsibility to paddle the brothers to shore. But unfortunately, they were hit by a wave, and then this is what happened.
Okay, so the understanding per what you're saying is that there was no senior person in charge of the boat at the time?
Not at all. And not that any boat owner wrongly did something. In fact, I'm told that there's a man there called Awuche. He normally goes to pick these kids from school and then bring them home. But the boat that he uses is spoiled as we speak. In fact, he even appealed to them to help him so that he can put it back to use. And then they could not have that done before this incident. That's it.
All right, so if I understand you, it means that from Adam, this community has never had an institution or a school.
No, not at all.
So you are the assemblyman. What measures have you put in place, not to build school, but at least to ensure that these kids who cross to the other side have their life jacket or a boat to ensure that lives are not lost?
When you mention the life jacket, I just don't want to, life jackets where there's used to be commercial, crossing, if you like, people engage in that kind of, when you go to Kwando, you go to Adan areas, people do that there. And even there, they don't have life jacket. People whose responsibility it is to make sure that people use life jacket, they don't do that. So I wonder how this small community can be able to do something of the sort. However, if there could be an NGO who could come to our aid and then help the situation, fine. But for me, government, then it will be ages.
So it means that the assembly is really not responsible when it comes to protecting lives as low as kids between 1 year to 13 years. You don't have a school in the community.
If there's any assembly which is irresponsible, I should say that it is Weja. I'm saying so because where the thing happened is Weja. And this place is not a normal place for the canal to be paved. It used to be somewhere there in Botiano. And because they were, droning out upstream, because they've allowed people to build in the river, in the buffers, and nobody's talking about that. And that's how come this one ought to be entering the sea every day. Because as and when it is closed, some people will suffer upstream. You understand what I'm trying to say? So they have to, who are giving the permit for people to be building in Tetegu? They should go and ask Weja. You understand? My brother, there's so much. There's so much.
Okay, so what is the plan for the victims and their families now?
From me, you should be seeing Admo here, but I'm told they are on their way. Again, like I said, this is something that happened at the other side. So I'm expecting the NADMO officers from my assembly, together with that of Weja, to collaborate so that they can come into the aid of our people, and we'll see how best those traumatized can be attended to. That's it.
Okay, let's look at the police angle. You are the assembly member for the area. Have you had any interactions with the police, and what have they been telling you regarding this particular incident?
My elders did so well. Before I got here, I was somewhere far before they called. But before I got here, they've engaged the police. The police came in and they helped, took the bodies to the mortuary. And they took first 7. Then later they found one. They came for that one too, and then took it away. We used to badge the police, but I would doff my care for them this time around.
All right. Thank you so much. So should they be expecting some packages from the assembly at least to take care of their current situation?
I can tell you on authority, I've spoken to my MC, Joseph Stevignani, and he's aware of what is happening here. But, just 3 days ago, something happened to us in Botiano about a church that, went down like that, and there's a small issue to Akokrobite. So as we speak, they are in a MUSEC meeting, and that's how come I'm here in his name. And right after that meeting, we'll come over and then assess the situation so that we can attend to them as expected.
So in the long term, what is the plan? Are we going to have a school in the community, or you're going to provide some means of crossing the river?
I think I need you together. Let us push this. If you go to the other island over there, we can put something there, and then that is near, so that if there should be any accident, we can attend to it quickly. So if you put up a school here, good. This community used to be full of people, but times are changing. That's why the numbers have come down, as you are seeing it. So if you give us a school, we are okay. If there's no school, we are not going to have school in the interim, then we need to have a bigger boat that we can be assured that our lives are safe.
Is that what you're going to push?
Yeah, I'm pushing for that, and I want you to help me do that.
All right, thank you so much. So that is the assembly member for Fana electoral area here, Botiano electoral area, and he's been telling us, giving us updates on what has happened. And one key thing we are picking from that interview is that NADMO is yet to arrive here to speak with Biri family and study exactly what actually went on yesterday. But I have a mother of one of the kids. She's very traumatized. We'll try to see if we can get something from her. Madam, how are you doing? Elinam says here. Viwa apanani le shafi. So she's saying that she had that vehicle. So 2 of her kids actually drowned. One was 9 years, and the second one was how many years?
1.5.
1.5 years. 9 years and 1.5 years. So she's standing here, has lost 2 of her kids, which is really, really heartbreaking. And so let me find out from you. When did you get to hear this news? At what time? Ekaye nesenyabe nana jode viwoji.
Maraku achona ba mira futa tami gboba 5 moma kama gbo maka konye jinla review mo gbo konye jinla kuma bo nkejo fi review mo gbo mai ma pera ba ogbo na ha kanye dodo mo ko e mara dole bo bo mi avi onyun ra tomolo fi me mo ko li dodo plo du fufu e maro ta te fe kana onyoroko amofu du plom do kakamia yanya ta fe review onyoro to baba famaro obu ye vinya sueto plo no vinya favi sueto olo akoko dauda afimango ji mi ba rush ko ira okoji kakamia ro koji ko over fa la afimango ji to tro ma fi ba po amamamle.
Okay, so she's basically saying that at the time the kids were supposed to have returned from school, they did not return. So she was alarmed, especially when she got the info that a boat had capsized. So she rushed there and realized that her 2 kids were involved, and they rushed them on the way. They actually passed away. So that is the update from the mother ta fifia nonoma ke nwa jofia police o alo nad motor over miagboa.
Mara kwa chama oyo police over wakpo. Devi kuku yo ofo koko ira motri.
Okay, so she's just giving us updates on what the police came to do yesterday. They came to convey the body. Ta madakuku na legida posia. All right. So that is the situation here in Fana. And as you can see in your shot, there are a lot of people gathered in this community discussing the issue. And so we'll try to engage with some other community leaders to understand what the next line of action would be with regards to this particular occurrence. So can you give us your name and tell us, now the community has been hit by this disaster. What is the way forward? What are you going to do next? Are you going to the police? Are you going to the assembly? What is the community considering to do next?
Because what about happen? Because we are joa markemal rumana markeba we are atajo. Afi ojo. Ta nyangu Kenya afi la ratina mikata. Talaba kop government anata una na chunguna mi nakpere mu ya okpere afitila onu. Because we are jo afi na gaji afiti na jifi ku kere via na rufare afi akua afi jo la gbegba. Nyangu Kenya fa pa amto. Ta nyi be mi afa government o takpere mi nyangu ko to do memela. To fa do memela. Afi mi afi una school. Skoro kema la afia o aro maru ina ra chokome maru ina ra afia afi nu ya gbegbe joa anyanwu e na kema lifia mi te o achi ha ma la afia no mi akuchi ha ga afia ke mi ko jalo chokome we wa ko chilena.
Okay, so basically he's saying that he's looking up to the authorities to come to their aid to either put a school facility or provide a bridge so they could cross and to engage in their activities. So I'm going to ask him, how soon are they going to push for that?
Because no jola fi me nyaba le ko ga jogo ta na nyaba ajo patakula me like it because me pere nko ji me la because no gba no ba we na me ha me le ka atu me agbo na me push na me ha maka ji ba over we na me. Okay, because so onye vigila nyamu ya na jo onye vigila kana chu ofo a ka wota o pere na me. All right,
so he's saying that the government should be sensitive enough to consider the situation they are in now so it can speedily come to their aid to provide either a school facility or a bridge or a safe crossing way for their school kids. And so there's another elder or community leader here in Fana who is also going to speak to us about the situation.
Okay, natafe ni adzo enyeba nya vio o lafia ono sukoyim la ono nya vio lafia ono sukoyim ono sukoyim la bushia makla chokome alaba atova domi atoma to kata domi le me wo chiafia nya kpoba asizian lafi goji zizaga lafi meira ka fifia fia me la jivu ka kara ka ba ka fifi la fia.
Okay, tafia bang me joy ma, me jo. Alaba the view over Buta. Okay, so he was just trying to rehash the story we've already told you. Okay, so he's saying that they expect the government to come to their aid as soon as possible. But fortunately, we have an eyewitness who was actually on board the canoe at the time of the incident. She is the 13-year-old girl here. She is going to share with us what she saw. Even though she's traumatized, we hope that she'll be able to tell us what happened yesterday. So give us your name.
Please, my name is Enyonam Ekpe.
Okay, so what time did this incident happen?
Please, 5:40 p.m.
Can you tell us what happened?
Please, yes. Yesterday, when we are coming home, we don't get boat, and I saw some young boy driving a boat, and I called and said that we should come and pick us. So when the boy came, then I told her that we are plenty inside the boat, so we should remove some people down and go and come and take us. The boy told me, said that the boat to go. I told again, then the boy said the boat to go. When I was going, then the boat has come and turned. Then I was holding my brother, and my brother fell down. Then I can't find my brother again. Then I hold the boat. When I hold the boat, and some man come and take me home.
So at that point, you couldn't get hold of your brother?
Please, no.
Okay. So what happened to the other people in the boat?
Please, they have died.
Okay. All right. So how did you raise alarm at the time?
Please, when we are coming, then the boy take us. Then I said we should put us down.
Okay. We are so sorry for your loss. Right. All right. Thank you so much. So that's the story from an eyewitness who actually survived the incident. And so from Fana here, as you can see in your shots, people are really gathered here having some discussion. You can see the elders in your shot who, according to them, have been sitting here all night trying to assess the situation, what really happened and what the way forward would be. So that is the meeting ongoing. But if you see here, you find ladies and women who are actually in a mourning situation, and they are in groups and discussing the issues here. So from Fana, we will now be engaging with the police to understand what they are doing about the situation, whether they are going to take any legal actions against the owner of the boat. And we'll also find out from the assembly if, due to this incident, they would consider building a crèche or a basic school in the community, or provide a safe way of crossing the river to the other side. So from Fana here in the Gansat municipality of the Greater Accra region, my name is Carlos Kaloni reporting.
Thank you, Carlos, for bringing us the details in there. I cannot help but look the way I look and feel the way I feel. In January, we had a similar incident. Again, we lost 8 people. In 5 months, we've lost 16 children. Their only crime, trying to go to and fro, as far as school is concerned. What a country. Bernice Akakpo Lansah joins me in the studio. I'm tired of talking about matters like this because, do you remember in January, the talk and life jackets, we can spend as much as we do on V8 vehicles. We cannot get life jackets. You will not put up a school there. You will not put up a bridge. You will not get them life jackets. I'm sure people will troop there, officials. I will not blame NADMO too much. They have their logistical constraints. We'll see the sector minister go again. Oh, and we are sorry. And you know what? Take it over. If I keep on talking, I'll say things I shouldn't.
It's very difficult for me, especially listening to that young girl talk about how she tried to reach out to her brother. I'm really sorry that she had to go through that. Benjamin, remember my interaction with the education minister, where he highlighted that some work was being done and they were doing some auditing to figure out some of these problems.
They will be auditing forever. 2024 will come and they will still be auditing.
I am extremely sad this morning because I had just come from there yesterday, the Wager area. Remember, I reported on the collapsed church building, and we were grateful to God that we hadn't recorded any deaths over that incident, only to get home and listen to the news and hear the story about children who were coming from school dying in such unfortunate circumstances. I don't know what it will take us. I don't know, as a people. The minister himself, the last time said, 1 life is 1 too many. Talk of 8. Now that number has doubled. I don't know what will happen. Benjamin, I'm lost for words.
Yeah, but let's be realistic. What will happen?
I'm devastated.
Bernice, what will happen? Nothing will happen. I'm not being pessimistic, Ghana for. Nothing will happen. This is Ghana. This is how we do it. Wait till the next one happens. This is Ghana South, right? The first one was in Wayokope in the Volta region. Interestingly, the number is saying 8. And even in this instance, when you count the others who have been affected, God saved them. But our casualties could be even more than the 8. How long? And these are Ghanaians. They are in island communities surrounded by water. They will have to go to school. You can't leave them without an education. Going to school would necessarily mean they would have to cross water bodies. You have a 1.5-year-old.
Benjamin, look.
I mean, these things, you wouldn't want them to happen to you. I wouldn't want that to happen to anyone close to me, anyone I know, any human being. So if it happens to someone else, we can't do it. So if we're in a country like that, and we keep acting the way we do, borrowing for nonsensical projects, riding in V8s, the best sort of glory you can get is for your people to point at you and say, this person is a leader, this person saved us, this person did this for us, rather than lording it over everybody. But I'll get you people tomorrow. Blunt thoughts. I'll deal with you. I'll grind the pepper well. And you can take me wherever you like.
Oh, goodness.
It's quite a it's just, I mean, I've had quite a conversation this morning, the economy and everything. This just makes everything,
look, you see my skin now. I'm just not in a good state. I just cannot begin to imagine what mothers and fathers are going through and how we have over time campaigned for children to get an education. Nothing should stop them. And when parents make the efforts, we don't want to meet them halfway. Children have to die to go to school. I can't understand it. I can't understand it. I can't understand how we let children sit in boats or canoes without protection. I can't understand it. Even if that is the only means of transporting these kids to school, we must have, and you remember yesterday I said this, value for life, 2 days ago. We as a people, we don't respect ourselves, Benjamin, because if I value your life and I see you as a human being, I can't let you go through that. Which begs the question, do our leaders see us as anything beyond votes? Benjamin, look, my mind is just drawn to mothers, like the mothers and the parents of these children. That little girl needs help. That little girl who was a part of or who was a passenger as well on that boat and psychological help. Her brother, goodness, the mother who has lost 2 of her children. That little girl needs help. Benjamin, I think we just have to go before I lose it all here. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the AM show. We pray that the talk shop ends. We pray that our leaders do something. We pray that we find a solution to these problems. Let's act for once. Let us sense the urgency. You get my point. Let us sense the urgency, not in just visiting, but putting up the right structures and putting in place the right policies that protect children. I was at Kolebu on Saturday, Benjamin, in the emergency unit of the children. And here's what one doctor told me. She asked me, "What do you do, ma'am?" And I told her, she said, "Can you speak for us?" They don't care about the children. Nothing. Nobody does. Have a good morning.